Chapter 171. As she flew through the wind and snow, she used her spiritual aura. Sure enough, she didn't feel cold anymore. Tiange thought to herself. In that case, the cultivators in the northernmost glacier had to use their spiritual aura all the time. From a certain point of view, didn't that mean they had more time to cultivate than ordinary cultivators? But that wasn't right. Aura-refining cultivators couldn't resist this cold wind. They must have some secret method. While she was thinking, her spread-out divine sense suddenly found traces of living beings. Tiange stopped, changed her direction, and flew northwest. Her divine sense locked on. Before long, she saw a group of people walking on the glacier. They were mortals. She frowned, waved her sleeves, and descended. The power emitted by a foundation-building cultivator shocked these mortals. When they saw her appearance, they all kowtowed and said, "Greetings, Master Immortal." "Greetings, Master Immortal." While these mortals were kowtowing, Tiange landed on the ice and said, "Who are you?" Among these mortals, the one kneeling in front was a bearded middle-aged man. He raised his head and respectfully said, "So it's a fairy. We have eyes but failed to see. Please forgive us." His attitude was humble. Tiange couldn't help but frown. "No need. Stand up and answer me." "Yes, yes." The man answered repeatedly. He then stood up and shouted at the people behind him, "Fairy, let us stand up. Stand up, stand up." These mortals stood up in twos and threes. Tiange noticed they were all young and strong men. There were also a few women who looked quite strong. "Fairy, we're from the seal tribe. This is the snow lotus we picked this time. Please examine it." As he spoke, he took out a jade box from his robe, opened it, and offered it to her with both hands. Tiange was stunned. This jade box was used by cultivators to collect spiritual plants. The snow lotus inside was a spiritual plant. What were they doing? Did you mistake me for someone else? Seeing that she didn't accept the jade box, the man looked at her carefully and suddenly understood. "Fairy, you came from the south." "Yes." Tiange looked at the man and frowned. "What do you mean?" The man said with a simple and honest smile, "Fairy is from the south, no wonder you don't know our northernmost customs. We are lotus pickers. When the immortal masters of the extreme north meet us lotus pickers, they will use spirit stones to exchange for snow lotuses, so that's how it is." This northernmost land was indeed very different from Kunwu. Tiange remembered what she wanted to ask. "You're mortals, how can you withstand the cold wind and snow? This snowstorm is not normal." Fairy doesn't know." The man was surprised. Could it be that Fairy didn't come from Dun City? Dun City. Tiange paused for a moment. She recalled the Jade Slip Yi clan gave her saying that regardless of whether one was a cultivator or a mortal, they would have to pass through Dawn City on their way to the northernmost land. Dawn City was the last big city on the way to the northernmost land in the Heartland. If one wanted to get supplies or inquire about information, it would be very convenient, so Dawn City became the only way. If Fairy came from Dawn City, someone should have already told you about our northernmost land when you were getting supplies. Tiange said faintly, "I came directly from the Heartland to the northernmost land, so I didn't pass through Dawn City." "Why don't you tell me about it? If you tell me in detail, I'll naturally reward you." Upon hearing her last sentence, the man smiled so widely that his eyes bloomed. He said repeatedly, "Yes, yes. This lowly one will tell Fairy." As it turned out, the mortals in the northernmost land were different from those in the Heartland and Kunwu. They didn't have a country, nor did they have a city, they were only divided into tribes. Each tribe was different in size. The largest tribe had tens of thousands of people, while the small ones only had a few dozen people. On the snowfield stretching thousands of miles in the northernmost land, there were several thousand tribes of various sizes. Their combined population was enough to be mentioned in the same breath as that of the big country in the heartland. However, these tribes weren't all friendly. Some of them married each other, while some of them hated each other. Before Jingfa's sect was established, each of these tribes had their own cultivators, and they were called shamans. Shamans were often the leaders of tribes. If a tribe didn't have a shaman, it had to pay tribute to a tribe that had one. Shamans were the gods of the tribes in the northernmost land. These shamans, on the other hand, were actually just some low-level cultivators. Even the shamans of big tribes were only in the foundation-building realm. This was what Mo Tiange deduced from the man's words. When the cultivators from Kunwu established Jingfa's sect in the northernmost land, they subdued the shamans of big tribes and ordered all the shamans in the tribes to belong to Jingfa's sect. In return, Jingfa's sect would protect their tribes. In the beginning, the tribes in the northernmost land weren't convinced because they thought Jingfa's sect had broken their tradition. However, as Jingfa's sect used a series of methods, the tribes discovered that their lives became much better with Jingfa's sect's protection. Gradually, they were convinced, and Jingfa's sect became their new god. Several thousand years passed, and Jingfa's sect took root firmly in the northernmost land. Because of this, the tribes there abandoned their traditions. They no longer called themselves shamans. Instead, they followed the way people in the Middle-earth and Kunwu called them immortals or fairies. Their former shamans wore Daoist robes and combed their hair into Daoist buns. Even their unique language was no longer their main language. Instead, they spoke like the people in the Middle-earth and Kunwu. Even their way of life was different from how it was several thousand years ago. The former tribes made a living by hunting fish and wild beasts under the glaciers. It was a very difficult life, and it was easy for them to lose their lives. After Jingfa's sect appeared, all the tribes under their protection would receive a kind of spirit tool that could help them hunt beasts. However, this kind of spirit tool required spirit stones to activate, so they organized lotus-picking teams. They would go to the boundless snowfield to pick snow lotuses and exchange them for spirit stones with cultivators. Although picking snow lotuses was also very difficult, it was much less dangerous than hunting beasts. Because of Jingfa's sect's formidable strength, the mortals of the northernmost land respected cultivators very much. Whenever cultivators passed by, they would warmly welcome them and point them in the right direction. If they were lucky, they could even get a few spirit stones as a reward. The group of people Mo Tiange ran into was a lotus-picking team from a nearby tribe called Seal. They thought she was a cultivator from Jingfa's sect, so they offered snow lotuses to her. Mo Tiange nodded then asked, "The cold wind here is also very difficult for cultivators to resist. You're mortals, so why aren't you affected?" The man in the lead explained, "Fairy, you might not know this, but this is the effect of snow lotuses. Every year, we northernmost people use soup made from snow lotuses to wash our bodies. This way, we won't have to worry about the cold wind." Oh. Mo Tiange stared at the snow lotuses in the jade box. Her interest was piqued. Although these spiritual plants aren't old, they're full of spiritual aura. The cultivators here are actually willing to let mortals like you use them. Fairy, there are a lot of ordinary snow lotuses in our northernmost land, so they're not that precious. However, the snow lotuses they offer to the Master's immortals are all rare species and not easy to find. Oh, I see, Fairy. Once the man finished speaking, he raised his head and looked at Mo Tiange eagerly. "I wonder if you're interested in this snow lotus." Mo Tiange was bewildered. "Aren't you going to offer it to Jingfa's sect cultivators? Can you also give it to outsiders?" The man smiled respectfully and said, "Fairy, you might not know this, but Jingfa's sect doesn't restrict us from offering snow lotuses. If cultivators from the south come, we can also exchange them for spirit stones. I heard from a master immortal in my tribe that this snow lotus can be concocted into a kind of medicinal pill that's only effective for people who practice water magic, so cultivators from the south won't come to steal it. At most, they'll exchange some for their own use. This won't affect Jingfa's sect at all. No wonder Jingfa's sect dominated this area. Their unique spiritual roots and magic were the foundation of their establishment. They not only deterred mortals but also bestowed kindness upon them. They didn't treat them harshly, so after a long time, mortals would naturally sincerely revere them as gods. With this thought in mind, Mo Tiange reached out to take the snow lotus from the jade box. After studying it for a while, she asked, "How many spirit stones do you want to exchange this snow lotus for?" Upon hearing her question, the man hastily bowed. "Master Immortal, however much you're willing to give, it's a reward for us." Mo Tiange couldn't help but smile when she heard that. Everyone loved to be respectful and flatter, so even if his words weren't sincere, they still made her feel comfortable. Besides, this man looked sincere, so he didn't seem fake. Jingfa's sect was really amazing in this northernmost area. They could actually make these mortals sincerely respect and love cultivators. Mo Tiange took out a handful of spirit stones from her Qiankuan bag and gave them to the man. "Consider this extra your reward for answering my question." This snow lotus was about a dozen years old, so it wasn't considered precious to cultivators. She roughly estimated the price of spiritual plants in Kunwu and estimated it to be worth about 10 spirit stones. The man looked at the dozen or so colorful spirit stones and was pleasantly surprised. He smiled so widely that his eyes disappeared. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Thank you, fairy, for your reward." As he spoke, the group of about a dozen people once again knelt down and kowtowed. Mo Tiange waved her sleeves, sending out a spiritual aura to support them. She couldn't stand these people kneeling at the drop of a hat. "You said this snow lotus can withstand the cold wind by boiling it into soup and washing your body. Are the cultivators of Jingfa's sect also like this?" After receiving her spirit stones, the man's attitude became even more respectful. He bowed and answered, "We mortals are like this. However, according to the master immortal of my tribe, Jingfa's sect has another method suitable for cultivators. Not only can it withstand the cold wind, but it can also increase spiritual aura." Oh. Mo Tiange was a bit tempted. Is this method allowed to be taught to outsiders? This lowly one doesn't know. The man then hastily added, "If fairy doesn't have any urgent matters to attend to, you can come to our tribe as a guest. Our master immortal happened to come back a few days ago." Mo Tiange thought about it. In any case, she didn't have any specific purpose, so it wouldn't matter if she went to this tribe to take a look. It would be even better if she could learn more about the northernmost area from their master immortal. With that thought in mind, she nodded with a smile. Upon hearing the chieftain's words, these people finally stood up one after another. Some went back to work, while others came to talk to their relatives. Hai Bo turned around and said to Mo Tiange, "Fairy, this way please. Our master immortal is here." Mo Tiange nodded, then followed Hai Bo to the tallest ice house. As they walked, Hai Bo introduced the place to her. "Our tribe's master immortal is an official disciple of Jingfa sect. If you have any questions, he'll definitely know. Come, fairy, please." He lifted the animal skin curtain in front of the ice house and politely invited Mo Tiange to enter. Mo Tiange smiled and took the lead. When she was above the tribe, she already sensed a foundation-building cultivator's aura. Unexpectedly, there was actually a foundation-building cultivator in this tribe that only had several hundred people at most. Inside was a small hall. The furnishings weren't any different from those in the Heartland and Kunwu, the only difference was the materials. Most of the furniture was made of ice, the curtains were made of animal skin, and there were also some teacups and the like, all of which were carved from wood. Once they entered the small hall, Haibo stood in front of a curtain and shouted, "Master Immortal, Haibo requests an audience." Then he respectfully stood in front of the curtain. After a while, a voice came from inside. "What's the matter?" Haibo respectfully reported, "A fairy requests an audience." Once Haibo finished speaking, Mo Tiange slightly released the momentum of a foundation building cultivator. Sure enough, a sound was immediately heard from inside. Soon after, someone lifted the curtain and came out. It was a young man. He was tall and thin, had a thin face, and was wearing Jingfa Sek's Daoist robe. Mo Tiange raised her hand. Just as she was about to salute him, she was startled. "It's you." Chapter 172. This person was Jiang Shanghang, the person she saw on Mount Yunwu more than 10 years ago. The Jiang Shanghang in front of her was a lot different from 10 years ago. When Mo Tiange first entered Yunwu sect, the Jiang Shanghang she saw was young and had a decent face, but his whole body was cold and his eyes were full of disdain, making people not want to get close to him. But the current Jiang Shanghang looked a bit younger than before. He wasn't even 50 years old yet, which was quite young for a foundation-building cultivator. His entire person was much thinner than before, but the uncomfortable gloomy coldness of his body had turned into indifference. His brows had also become gentle, and there was no disdain to hurt others, only a faint indifference. After Mo Tiange was saved by Jiang Shanghang, the two of them fled separately. Mo Tiange attracted the attention of the pursuers, so no one knew Jiang Shanghang was involved and he disappeared smoothly. Later, although Mo Tiange was saved by Qin Shi, she lost second uncle and went to Xianqing school. Separated by thousands of miles, she didn't have time to inquire about Jiang Shanghang. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Jiang Shanghang was even more shocked when he saw her expression. When he heard her voice, he regained his composure and said to the curious Haibo, "This is my friend. Quickly serve the snow lotus tea." Haibo promptly answered, "Yes, yes. Please wait a moment, the tea will be served soon." After Haibo left, Jiang Shanghang's gaze finally fell on Mo Tiange. After sizing her up, the astonishment on his face slowly faded and he finally smiled. "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, long time no see." His smile made Mo Tiange sigh inwardly. How could Jiang Shanghang smile in the past? It seemed that leaving Yunwu sect for more than 10 years had changed him a lot. It has indeed been a long time. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years have passed. I didn't expect we'd meet again here. Jiang Shanghang nodded with a smile. "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, please sit." "Oh, should I change my name now?" Mo Tiange sat down on the guest seat and said with a smile, "What's the difference? I'm still using the name Yi Xiaotian when I'm outside, so Senior Marshal Brother Jiang can still call me that." After a pause, she asked with a smile, "Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, are you using your original name now?" Jiang Shanghang sat down on the seat of honor and shook his head. "My current name is Jiang Shuihan." Upon hearing that he really did change his name, Mo Tiange sighed and nodded. Jiang Shanghang probably changed his name because he had no other choice. When he left Jiang clan, he broke off all relations with Jiang clan. Before he left, he even killed the beloved junior of Jiang clan's core formation cultivator. He wasn't like Mo Tiange, who entered Xianqing school and had protection. If he didn't change his name, it would be very easy for others to find him. It's been so many years. Is Senior Brother Jiang doing well? Why did you become a master immortal of this northernmost tribe and even enter Jingfa sect? I'm doing pretty well. Jiang Shanghang said faintly, "After I left Mount Yunwu, I decided to leave Kunwu and look for other spirit veins to cultivate. However, there are too few spirit veins in the secular world. In the end, after thinking about it for a long time, I came to the northernmost area. Jingfa sect is the most powerful sect in the northernmost area, and it also cultivates water magic, which suits me very well. Kunwu is also far away from here, so presumably, no matter how hard Jiang clan tries, they won't be able to find me in the northernmost area. That is true. In the past, senior brother Jiang also cultivated water magic, so entering Jingfa sect also complemented each other. Mo Tiange couldn't help but nod. Now that she thought about it carefully, it was very normal for Jiang Shanghang to come to the northernmost area. He mainly cultivated water magic, so Jingfa sect's cultivation technique was very suitable for him. Furthermore, it was far from Kunwu, so it was a good place to hide. Jiang Shanghang smiled. It was actually a coincidence that I was able to smoothly enter Jingfa sect. As long as a mortal in the northernmost area has spiritual roots, Jingfa sect will accept them no matter what kind of spiritual roots they have. However, they're very strict with us cultivators who come from the south. My spiritual roots are too poor, so it was originally very difficult for me to be accepted by them. Oh. Could it be that senior brother Jiang encountered some kind of fated chance? It was also a coincidence. As soon as I arrived here, I happened to run into the people of this tribe. Their master immortal had just passed away, so they were faced with the predicament of being incorporated by another tribe. Thus, they begged me to become their master immortal. I thought about it, and since I didn't have anywhere else to go, I agreed. Later, Jingfa sect changed its name and abandoned the original Jingfa school. To celebrate the change, foreign cultivators like me, who also became a master immortal of a tribe, were allowed to join as an exception. I see. That being the case, Jiang Shanghang had it much harder than she had in the past 17 years. After painstakingly escaping from Yunwu sect, leaving Kunwu and fleeing to the northernmost area, he must have suffered a lot in the beginning, but fortunately, he finally had some results. Jiang Shanghang stared at her and asked, "Junior Martial Brother Yi, judging from your appearance, you've been living well these past few years. I originally thought it would be good if you could build your foundation, but when I saw you again, your cultivation level was actually much higher than mine. You must have had some kind of fated chance, right?" His own cultivation level was still in the early stage of the foundation building realm. Even if he wanted to advance to the middle stage of the foundation building realm, it wouldn't be something that could be done in a short period of time. Mo Tiange, on the other hand, was already in the peak of the middle stage of the foundation building realm and could advance to the late stage at any time. Mo Tiange also smiled. Jiang Shanghang's current temperament was quite agreeable to her. He spoke bluntly and wasn't as gloomy as before. "It's not bad, I was just lucky. I'm afraid luck alone isn't enough. Junior Martial Brother Yi, you don't have to be so modest." Jiang Shanghang paused for a moment then continued, "Junior Martial Brother Yi, I'll tell you the truth. When we parted that year, I thought you'd most likely be unable to escape the calamity. I never expected that you. How did you escape that time?" "This." Mo Tiange muttered to herself for a moment, but in the end, she told him the truth. "It was almost like that. If Senior Martial Brother Qin hadn't come to save me, I would have died." "Senior Martial Brother Qin?" Jiang Shanghang thought for a moment then said with astonishment, "Are you talking about Junior Martial Brother Qin, she who lived with us?" Mo Tiange nodded. "After we parted that day, second uncle and I escaped from Mount Yunwu, but we were quickly overtaken by them. Because of that, second uncle died." Mo Tiange's expression became gloomy when she mentioned this matter. Jiang Shanghang looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, I made you remember something sad." "It's nothing." Judging from Jiang Shanghang's current appearance, he was indeed completely different from before. How could he have apologized for this matter in the past? She went on to say, before second uncle died, he told me to ask someone for help. That person was a famous core formation cultivator in West Kunwu. Back then, he owed my father a favor, so he left a divine scent sound transmitting talisman behind. After I crushed the talisman, Senior Marshal Brother Qin appeared. What? Jiang Shanghang was shocked. He thought for a moment then asked, Junior Marshal Brother Qin, could it be that you already have a master? Mo Tiange smiled and nodded. She knew Jiang Shanghang misunderstood, but she didn't intend to explain. In fact, she also thought the same as Jiang Shanghang back then. Qin she also made her think the same. After all, how could an ordinary aura refining cultivator know that he lived with a core formation cultivator for several years? Jiang Shanghang thought for a moment then asked, could it be that Junior Marshal Brother Qin's master is much more famous than Yunhui sects, so he could, correct? Mo Tiange said faintly, how could those people from Yunhui sect dare to offend the disciple of Lord Daoist Jinghe from Xianqing School in West Kunwu? What? Jiang Shanghang blurted out and stood up all of a sudden. Right at that moment, someone called from outside, Master Immortal, the Snow Lotus Tea is here. Jiang Shanghang calmed himself down then sat down. His tone regained its calmness. Come in. A woman lifted the curtain then gracefully walked in with a tray. She poured each of them a cup of tea and cautiously looked between them as if she was trying to guess their relationship. Finally, she saluted them then left. The women of this northernmost area were also different from the women of Kunwu in the heartland. Their skin was fair and their facial features were relatively deep. Their statures weren't tall, but they were sturdy. The women Mo Tiange saw on the way to this tribe were all like this, but this woman was obviously a bit more beautiful. Her figure was much more graceful, and she didn't look like someone from the northernmost area. Jiang Shanghang, who noticed her gaze, explained, ever since Zhengfa's sect established itself in the northernmost area, the mortals it brought with it had many marriages with the northernmost tribes. Now, some people in the tribe have bloodlines from the heartland and Kunwu. He then pointed at the Snow Lotus tea on the table. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, have you ever drunk this Snow Lotus tea in Dawn City? Back then, I was in a hurry to come to the northernmost area, so I didn't drink this Snow Lotus tea and suffered a lot. Fortunately, I met people from the Seal tribe. Mo Tiange shook her head and said with a smile, I didn't either. Fortunately, I've built my foundation now. Otherwise, I would have also suffered a lot. Jiang Shanghang smiled and the two of them sipped their tea. This Snow Lotus tea was the same as the one in the south. It was dried and brewed, but instead of tea leaves, it was made from snow lotus petals. After taking a sip, Mo Tiange suddenly felt a stream of heat flowing from her abdomen to her limbs and bones. She felt extremely warm. It seemed that not only could she wash herself with Snow Lotus tea, but drinking Snow Lotus tea could also protect her from the cold wind of the northernmost area. Jiang Shanghang put down the teacup, looked at her and continued with the previous topic. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, you said Junior Marshal Brother Qin is the disciple of a nascent soul cultivator at Xianqing School. Yes. There was nothing she couldn't say. So you're also at Xianqing School now? Mo Tiange smiled faintly and said, I was lucky. When I went to Xianqing School, I won Lord Daoist Jinghe's favor and he accepted me as his registered disciple. After I built my foundation, I became his official disciple. Upon hearing this, Jiang Shanghang's gaze towards her was different from before. When he saw that Mo Tiange's cultivation level had already reached the peak of the middle stage of the foundation building realm and she looked confident, he knew she was doing very well. However, he didn't know she was doing so well. An official disciple of a nascent soul cultivator. He thought about himself. After he built his foundation, his cultivation speed wasn't inferior to that of elite disciples, so he thought he was lucky enough. When he occasionally thought about junior martial brother Yi from back then, he always thought she was most likely no longer in this world. Even if she was lucky enough to escape the calamity, she probably wouldn't be able to build her foundation. Unexpectedly, not only did she build her foundation, but she was also doing so well that it was beyond his expectations. In that case, it's no wonder junior martial brother Yi made realm breakthroughs so fast. Not only did you smoothly build your foundation, but you also reached the peak of the middle stage of the foundation building realm so quickly. Jiang Shanghang said with a sigh, everyone has their own fortune, there's no point in being envious. Senior martial brother Jiang, you're already an official disciple of Jingfa sect now, why do you need to be envious? With senior martial brother Jiang's temperament, presumably, you also have hope for the great Tao. Jiang Shanghang smiled bitterly. The great Tao. That's too far. Back then, I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I thought those two ancestors deliberately suppressed me so that Jiang Qingxian could stand up for me. In fact, even if they didn't suppress me, so what? Maybe I could build my foundation very smoothly, but, after that, my future would be unpredictable. Mo Tiange was silent. If she hadn't obtained the art of the origin and turned from a waste spiritual root of 5 elements into a heaven-gifted genius in one fell swoop, her cultivation path would probably be the same. When she was in the aura refining realm, she always thought that by relying on her own efforts, even if the path to immortality was difficult, she could still reach the other side. However, after she built her foundation, she discovered that her previous thoughts were simply overestimating the immensity of heaven and earth. Aptitude, cultivation technique, temperament, and luck, not a single one could be lacking. At least senior martial brother Jiang built his foundation smoothly, didn't you? Jiang Shanghang sighed. I was able to build my foundation because I entered Jingfa sect. Back then, although I obtained foundation refining pills and constitution enhancing pills, I tried them once and failed. Later, I went to the northernmost area and entered Jingfa sect. I modified their high-grade ice element cultivation technique and won a minor competition in the sect. It was only after I obtained pointers from a core formation senior that I dared to enter closed-door meditation again. This time, I finally succeeded by a fluke. With Jiang Shanghang's aptitude of 4 spiritual roots, being able to build his foundation twice was indeed a fluke. In fact, wasn't she also lucky? Back then, when I built my foundation, I used no less than 4 foundation building pills. If I hadn't received several foundation building pills as a reward from Master, I don't know when I would have been able to build my foundation. Mo Tiange also sighed. She didn't know when she was in the aura refining realm, but after building her foundation, she recalled the process of building her foundation. The two of them sighed, then glanced at each other and couldn't help but smile. Mo Tiange pondered for a moment, then chose a tactful way of saying, right, senior martial brother Jiang, your temperament seems to be different from before. Jiang Shanghang laughed. I know what you mean. You want to say that I'm not as annoying as before, right? Mo Tiange also smiled and didn't deny it. Jiang Shanghang said, it was only after I left the Jiang clan and saw more things that I realized the world was actually this big. When I was in the Jiang clan, in order to cultivate quickly, I kept using secret techniques, which damaged my body and caused my temperament to become very strange. When I arrived at Jingfa sect, I gave up my original cultivation technique and switched to Jingfa sect's high-grade ace element cultivation technique, so I was naturally different from before. I see. No wonder his temperament was different. His previous secret techniques tended to be cold and gloomy, while his current high-grade ice element cultivation technique tended to be cold. Moreover, without the shackles of Jiang clan, he was naturally more cheerful. Besides, here, everyone in the tribe respects me, and Jingfa sect also doesn't bully me. Everything goes smoothly, so I naturally won't be resentful of the world. Mo Tiange thought about it and agreed. The environment affected one's temperament. When she was in Yunwu's sect, she was cautious and had a heavy heart. She always greeted people with a smile and didn't dare to offend them in the slightest. When she arrived at Xianqing school, she had a cultivation level, identity, and status, so her personality became more flamboyant and she also learned to show her power to others. Junior martial brother Ye's also different from before. Jiang Shanghang sized her up again then said with a smile, "In the past, no matter how I looked at you, junior martial brother Yi was still a child, but now, you can really be considered a fairy." Was this a compliment to her appearance? Mo Tiange felt a bit strange. Even though she changed back to her female clothes, she always wore a loose Daoist robe with big sleeves, and she only wore her hair in a Daoist bun. She didn't even use the jewelry Qin Shi gave her. When she thought of this name, she was stunned. They hadn't seen each other for 10 years, so she didn't know how his closed-door meditation was going. Master said he was too thoughtful and most likely couldn't form his nascent soul, but he was very persistent. However, she clearly knew he wasn't an impatient person when it came to cultivation, so what made him so anxious to form his nascent soul? Junior martial brother Yi, junior martial brother Yi. Seeing Jiang Shanghang's curious expression, Mo Tiange realized she was distracted just now. She felt annoyed and said, "I'm sorry, senior martial brother Jiang." Jiang Shanghang looked at her inquisitively, but in the end, he shook his head and didn't ask anything. Instead, he talked about another matter. "Right, you said junior martial brother Qin is Lord Daoist Jinghe's disciple. Are you his martial brother now?" "Yes." Since he's a disciple of a big sect like Xianqing School and a nascent soul cultivator's disciple, why did he go to Yunwu sect? And he stayed there for 3 years. She also didn't know the reason. Besides, this was Qin Shi's private matter, so it wasn't appropriate for her to say it. Seeing her embarrassed expression, Jiang Shanghang said, "I was just asking casually. If it's not convenient, you don't have to say it." Mo Tiange sighed with relief and explained with a smile, "This is senior martial brother Qin's private matter. It's not convenient for me to say it. I was too abrupt." Jiang Shanghang put down this question and asked again, "How is junior martial brother Qin now?" "Very good." She swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. "Senior martial brother Qin advanced even faster than me." "Really?" Jiang Shanghang was surprised. He thought for a moment and said, "Back then, he was only an aura refining disciple, but he was already the disciple of a nascent soul cultivator. Could it be that his aptitude is actually very outstanding?" As he spoke, he stared at Mo Tiange with a somewhat strange expression. What he was thinking was that he knew what aptitude this junior martial brother Yi had, but he was unexpectedly accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul cultivator. Could it be because of that junior martial brother Qin? "You can say that." Mo Tiange said faintly, "Senior martial brother Qin is my master's blood-related descendant, and his aptitude is outstanding. Presumably, it's not impossible for him to advance to the nascent soul realm." Nascent soul. Upon hearing this, Jiang Shanghang couldn't help but say, "Junior martial brother Qin is only in the foundation building realm now, right? He's a genius with a single spiritual root, but advancing to the nascent soul realm isn't a certainty." However, he only saw Mo Tiange smiling slightly as if she didn't care, so he swallowed the rest of his words and said, "Back then, there were 5 people in our family. Junior martial brother Su died, and you and junior martial brother Qin left. The only one left in Yunwu's sect was senior martial brother Lu. I wonder how proud he is now." When Lu Yidao was mentioned, Jiang Shanghang sneered, seemingly disdainful. Mo Tiange frowned slightly. She asked in confusion, "Senior martial brother Jiang, back then, you and senior martial brother Lu didn't have any conflicts, right?" "Of course not. Then why did you? Jiang Shanghang sneered again. I originally thought among cultivators, he was one of those people who valued friendship. Who would have thought I'd see a secret of his? A secret? Mo Tiange was stunned. Correct. Jiang Shanghang said coldly, do you know how junior marshal brother Su died? It was during the foundation building pills test. Mo Tiange paused. Since Jiang Shanghang said that, could it be that Su Jingji's death was related to Lui Dao? Upon seeing her expression, Jiang Shanghang nodded indifferently. You should have guessed what I mean. Back then, in that forest, I happened to see them. I saw them being besieged with my own eyes. When they were in danger, Senior Marshal Brother Liu, in order to buy himself time to escape, didn't warn Junior Marshal Brother Su and took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to him to slip away. However, Junior Marshal Brother Su was surrounded by Zixia sect's cultivators. Without a doubt, he died. What? Mo Tiange's face paled. She was about to question why Jiang Shanghang didn't make a move even though he saw them, but on second thought, regardless of Jiang Shanghang's temperament back then, since he was bound to lose, he naturally wouldn't throw his life away. However, not making a move was one thing, and abandoning Su Jingji like a sacrificial pawn was another. The last time she saw Lui Dao, he was so angry about Su Jingji's death. Could it be that he had a guilty conscience? Because he did such a thing, he hated the person who made him do it even more. Mo Tiange said slowly, Senior Marshal Brother Liu is also in the foundation building realm now. I met him once. He's now a core formation cultivator's disciple of Yunwu sect. Really? Jiang Shanghang sneered with an indifferent expression. I've been away from Yunwu sect for so long, and I don't plan to go back in the future. Whatever happens to him has nothing to do with me. Mo Tiange was speechless. She also thought the same way. It was something that happened more than 10 years ago. So what if Lui Dao wronged Su Jingji? In any case, she wouldn't have anything to do with him in the future. However, this matter really made her sigh with emotion. Sure enough, one might know a person's face but not his heart. Chapter 173. Jiang Shanghang asked, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, since you're a disciple of a famous school now, why did you come to such a difficult place like the northernmost area? Well, I won't hide it from Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. I left the mountain to travel. Jingfa sect and Xianqing school are both Dao schools, so I came to the northernmost area to take a look. Her words were half true. There was nothing to hide about traveling, but it wasn't convenient to talk about fated chances like entering Ziwei's Immortal's cave. Jiang Shanghang naturally didn't know what she was concealing, so he just nodded. This was very normal. Before disciples of big cultivation groups made realm breakthroughs, most of them had to go out to gain experience to avoid failure when their mental state wasn't strong enough. Mo Tiange was now in the peak of the middle stage of the foundation building realm, so according to the rules, she had to go out to gain experience so she could advance to the late stage of the foundation building realm. Where's Senior Marshal Brother Jiang? Why aren't you in Jingfa sect? Jiang Shanghang smiled but didn't answer immediately. A hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes as he said slowly, I won't hide it from you. With my aptitude, it'll be very difficult for my cultivation to advance after building my foundation, so I'm not often in the school. I often go out to find spiritual plants to concoct medicinal pills. Otherwise, with my aptitude, it'll be very difficult. He paused then continued, this time, I left the school with this in mind. Don't be fooled by the boundless snowfield in this northernmost area, in fact, there are many good things there. It'll just depend on whether other people can find them or not. Looking at the mysterious smile on Jiang Shanghang's face, Mo Tiange couldn't help but ask, does Senior Marshal Brother Jiang know? Jiang Shanghang was still smiling. If Junior Marshal Brother Yi is interested, we can talk about it in detail later. Since Junior Marshall Brother Yi came to the northernmost area, I should do my best as a host and entertain you all. Seeing that Jiang Shanghang changed the topic, Mo Tiange knew he still wanted to talk about it, so she didn't ask. She nodded and said, "Thank you, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. I'm unfamiliar with this northernmost area, so Senior Marshal Brother Jiang's hospitality couldn't be better." Jiang Shanghang laughed then said, "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, you're also very tired. Why don't you take a rest first? After you've rested enough, we can discuss some cultivation matters, or we can show you the scenery of the northernmost area. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Marshal Brother Jiang." Jiang Shanghang nodded with a smile, then raised his voice and shouted, "Guards." After a while, the woman who brought the tea lifted the curtain and entered the room. She bowed and said, "Immortal Master, what are your orders?" Jiang Shanghang said, "Clean up the guest room and properly entertain my friend." The woman glanced at Mo Tiange. "Yes." After that, he walked towards Mo Tiange, bowed respectfully and made an inviting gesture. "Fairy, please come with me." Mo Tiange once again cupped her hands towards Jiang Shanghang, then stood up and followed the woman out of the igloo. The mortal woman led her around a corner and entered an ice house not far away. This igloo was similar to the one Jiang Shanghang was in. It also had a small living room with a curtain door on the inside. It was not convenient to make doors in the ice houses in the extreme north. It seemed that the door curtains were made of animal skin. After bringing her here, the mortal woman respectfully bowed and said, "Fairy, please rest here. If you need anything, just shout for me." Mo Tiange sized up the small igloo. After bowing once more, the mortal woman retreated. Mo Tiange rubbed the space between her eyebrows. She felt very tired, but she still carefully laid a defensive formation inside the house before entering the virtual sky world. It only took her 3 or 4 days to discover spiritual aura fluctuations in Jin country, trace them to Jiuling Mountains Fengxi Valley, enter Ziwei's Immortal's Cave, and finally be transported to the northernmost glacier through the transporting formation. For a foundation building cultivator, 3 or 4 days were nothing. However, after going through so many things, she already felt mentally exhausted. After entering the virtual sky world, she was finally safe. She didn't want to do anything, so she simply lay down and slept to her heart's content. When she woke up, she didn't know what time it was. Recalling her experience in Ziwei's Immortal's Cave, she took out the 2 stone sculpture puppets, the Xuanji formation book, and the sunstone from her Chenkuan bag. In Ziwei's Immortal's Cave, she obtained a total of 5 things. The cloud-treading boots were already on her body. She didn't recognize the unknown ore, but it was certainly not an ordinary object, so she put it away first. The other 3 things were in front of her. These 2 stone sculpture puppets were both in the late stage of the foundation building realm. The control method Wanderer Ziwei left in her mind told her that these puppets could automatically absorb the spiritual aura around them. As long as there was spiritual aura, they could move forever. For the current her, having 2 late-stage foundation building cultivators as helpers increased her strength by more than half. If she controlled them well, she wouldn't need to fear cultivators below the core formation realm. There was also the sunstone. According to Daoist Fangjing, this thing could produce sun-real fire and could be used to concoct medicinal pills. This time, for the sake of Jinji's safety, she left Xiaohua next to Jinji's body. Foundation building cultivators didn't have enough Dantian real fire, so they just lacked a suitable concocting fire. The most important thing was still the Xuanji formation book. She witnessed the power of the illusory formation with her own eyes in Ziwei's Immortal's Cave. At that time, Wanderer Ziwei was lenient. If he wasn't lenient, how terrifying would that formation be? If that was the case, then it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that after learning this profound formation tome, she would be able to fight many enemies at once if she was prepared. Even if she were to face a high-grade cultivator, it wouldn't be as if she didn't have any life-saving measures. She immersed her divine sense into the jade slip. Just as she was about to start studying this Xuanji formation book, she heard a voice outside the virtual sky world, "Fairy, fairy." Mo Tiange pressed the space between her eyebrows and exited the virtual sky world. She then opened the formation and said, "Come in." Someone lifted the curtain outside and entered, stopping outside the inner door. Then, the voice of the woman from yesterday could be heard, "Fairy, our immortal master has invited you. Would it be convenient for Fairy to meet him?" As it turned out, Jiang Shanghang wanted to see her. Mo Tiange nodded. "I understand. Let's go now." The woman bowed again and led her back to the igloo from yesterday. As soon as she lifted the curtain, Jiang Shanghang was already waiting for her in the living room. When he saw her coming in, he stood up and greeted her. "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, I didn't disturb you, did I?" Mo Tiange smiled and said, "No, I'm just idle and have nothing to do." Jiang Shanghang replied with a smile, "That's good. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, yesterday I said I'd take you to see the scenery of the northernmost area. Since the weather is fine today, how about we go out for a walk?" "Sure." Since the master invited her, what reason did she have to refuse? The two of them left the igloo. Under the worship of the mortals in the tribe, they used their respective flying magic tools and flew into the air. The mortals below looked at them with envy and respect. Mo Tiange even saw a mother holding her child who was only 3 or 4 years old and earnestly teaching him, "Xiaofeng, do you see that? This is Master Immortal. Master Immortal said you have spiritual roots. Although it's not very good, you can still cultivate. Cultivate well, and when you grow up, you'll be able to fly like Master Immortal." Jiang Shanghang presumably also heard what she said, so he smiled and said, "That child only has 5 spiritual roots, but in the end, he can still cultivate. Everyone's hopes are on him." Mo Tiange was a bit surprised. "There are only several hundred people in this tribe, right? Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, you said you came to this tribe because their Master Immortal passed away, and now they have a child with spiritual roots. Why does it seem like the probability of them having spiritual roots is very high?" "Correct. I was also very surprised when I first came here." Jiang Shanghang said, "The probability of the mortals in the northernmost area having spiritual roots is much higher than in the heartland. It's almost not inferior to the cultivation clans in Kunwu. A tribe with several hundred people can have one person with spiritual roots. However, their spiritual roots are generally poor, and cultivators with 3 spiritual roots or more rarely appear. Furthermore, their cultivators' lifespans are also shorter than Kunwu people's." "Oh, I guess it might be because of the special environment in the northernmost area. They need the protection of cultivators, so gradually, they have more cultivators than Kunwu. However, since there are advantages, there are naturally disadvantages. The price is that their cultivators' lifespans are shorter than Kunwu's." This made sense. In the Middle Ages era, there was a popular theory, the survival of the fittest, that only the fittest could survive. Facts also proved this principle. Those who were passed on adapted to the changes in the environment, and those who couldn't adapt died. One day, the weather was fine, just like Jiang Shanghang said. The sun appeared in the sky, giving them a bit of warmth when it shone on them. Under the sunlight, the glaciers reflected colorful light, dazzling and beautiful like a rainbow. Mo Tiange flew in the sky and looked down. She only saw a boundless sparkling glacier with rainbows hanging between them, which was really intoxicating. Jiang Shanghang turned around and saw her expression. He said with a smile, Junior Marshall Brother Yi also thinks the scenery in the northernmost area is very beautiful. Mo Tiange nodded and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, the world is so big, and each place has its own beauty. Kunwu mountain range is majestic, and this northernmost glacier with its boundless whiteness is also very spectacular. Yes. Jiang Shanghang looked proud. Only after coming to the northernmost area did I realize how vast the world is. Why should I be restricted to one mountain or one person? Jiang clan doesn't treat me well, so I'll just leave. The world is so big, is there no place for me to go? In such a beautiful world, why should I be depressed because of Jiang clan that doesn't treat me well? You're right. Mo Tiange couldn't help but clap her hands and praise him. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang is so broad-minded. If there's wine, you'll naturally drink it. Ha! Jiang Shanghang looked up and laughed. He took out a small bottle of wine from his robe and threw it to her. You want wine? Isn't this it? Mo Tiange caught it. When she saw him taking out another bottle from his robe and opening it, looking very heroic, she also couldn't help but feel heroic. She also pulled out the cork and clinked her bottle with his. To Senior Marshal Brother Jiang for being reborn and being different from the past. Jiang Shanghang smiled. To our escape, to our reunion after more than 10 years, to this vast world, and to our beautiful future. The two of them finished their wine in one gulp. Jiang Shanghang threw the bottle away and heaved a sigh of relief. After being in the northernmost area for more than 10 years, I don't want to go back to Kunwu. This place is peaceful and happy. Although there are occasional disputes and daily life is hard, it's better than Kunwu's unpredictable people who scheme every day. Is that so? Mo Tiange gazed into the distance. The boundless snowfield was empty, devoid of people, and only the cries of wild beasts could be heard. She also wanted this kind of peaceful and happy life. However, everything was good for her now in Xianqing school. She had a master, friends, and relatives. These things were more important to her. Chapter 174. After enjoying the scenery, Jiang Shanghang said, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, do you know that this northernmost glacier is actually an ocean? Mo Tiange was surprised. An ocean? Yes. Jiang Shanghang pointed to the north. Over there, north of the glacier. Mo Tiange looked as far as she could but couldn't see anything. Jiang Shanghang leaped up and stepped on his flying magic tool. Let's go. Seeing that he was in high spirits, Mo Tiange also leaped up. Jiang Shanghang had already seen her flying in the air without using a flying magic tool, so he couldn't help but ask, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, you can actually fly this fast? Mo Tiange smiled. Of course not. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, look at my boots. These are flying magic tools. Jiang Shanghang naturally noticed that the boots on her feet were full of spiritual aura, but he wasn't sure. Now that he heard her words, he took a second look at them, feeling quite envious. As a flying magic tool, boots were much more convenient than ordinary flying magic tools, and they also saved magic power. However, flying magic tools in the shape of boots were very rare. Since Mo Tiange said they were magic tools, Jiang Shanghang naturally felt envious. Although he was now a disciple of Jingfa sect and was respected, he didn't have a master and was only an ordinary sect cultivator. He naturally didn't have any magic tools, but he had good magic tools. The two of them flew north. After flying for about half a day, they heard a rumbling sound. When they got closer, Mo Tiange saw a vast ocean between the huge glaciers. This is the ocean, yes. Jiang Shanghang floated in the air, looking at the ocean in the distance. This is the northernmost ocean. It's so vast that I don't know where it leads to. There are demonic beasts everywhere, and there are countless rare treasures. It all depends on whether people have the ability to take them away. When Mo Tiange heard what he said, she turned her head and stared at him thoughtfully. Jiang Shanghang turned back and smiled. It seems Junior Marshal Brother Yi understands what I mean. Yes, in order to cultivate, I always go deep into the northernmost ocean to look for spiritual objects to exchange for cultivation needs. I told Junior Marshal Brother Yi about this because I wanted to ask if you were interested. Mo Tiange didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned around and looked at the boundless ocean in front of her. In the northernmost area, whether it was the boundless snowfield or the ocean in front of her, it was so vast and peaceful that people couldn't help but feel open-minded. She couldn't bear to let the matters of the cultivation world taint it. Senior Brother Jiang, are there any treasures here? What's the price? Upon hearing what she said, Jiang Shanghang seemed to heave a sigh of relief. He pointed at a place in the distance and said, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, do you see that sharp horn? Mo Tiange looked in the direction he was pointing. It was an iceberg about 1,000 feet tall. It looked like a sharp knife tearing a corner of the sea apart. Jiang Shanghang said, that iceberg has a name among the disciples of Jingfa sect. How should I address you? Correct, that isn't an ordinary iceberg. It hasn't melted in 10,000 years, nor has it drifted away, firmly standing here. We call it the land of the hidden dragon. The land of hiding dragon. Mo Tiange repeated with a puzzled expression. Dragons were the most powerful of the ancient divine beasts. The dragon clan was born with divine abilities, and they were once the race closest to gods. They could move clouds and summon rain, and they could swallow rivers and spit out oceans. Even a newborn dragon child had the same ability as a core formation cultivator. At the end of their cultivation, they would become winged dragons. They could fly in the sky, dive into the earth, and roam the universe. They were also the most carefree race. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, are you trying to say that dragons really exist? Jiang Shanghang shook his head. We don't know whether dragons really exist or not. However, this land of the hidden dragon has been passed down among Jingfa sect disciples for thousands of years. I've also seen it. There's indeed a mysterious spiritual breath inside, but no one knows whether it's a dragon or not. Is it dangerous inside? Of course. Danger and opportunity coexist. A fervent glint flashed in Jiang Shanghang's eyes. He said in a low voice, we once had a senior who obtained a mysterious treasure inside and entered the core formation realm in one go. But among the disciples who entered, some came out with serious injuries, and some died. Seeing that Mo Tiange didn't say anything, he anxiously asked, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, are you not interested? Mo Tiange smiled faintly and cast him a glance. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, what happened to your magnanimity just now? Jiang Shanghang was startled. A blushing expression appeared on his face, but he still said resolutely, I'm no longer trapped by my past. I can embark on the path of cultivation, so how can I give up? If I can go further, I naturally won't give up the opportunity to become an immortal. Mo Tiange was silent. The great path to immortality was just these 4 words. How many magnanimous people couldn't see through it, let alone Jiang Shanghang? She took a deep breath and said, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, if there aren't enough benefits, I don't need to risk my life. What do you think? Jiang Shanghang was startled, but when he recalled her current identity, he finally reacted. He still smiled and said, this land of hiding dragon isn't the only place where ordinary disciples like us go to look for treasures, even the elite disciples in the school also flock like ducks. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, do you think there aren't enough benefits inside? Is that so? Jingfa sect was also one of the 7 great cultivation groups in the celestial pole. Its power was only slightly smaller than Xianqing school and Gujin sect, so that meant, seeing that Mo Tiange didn't seem very interested, Jiang Shanghang said, "Junior Martial Brother Yi, don't underestimate the treasures inside." In Jingfa sect, even nascent soul cultivators often go to the land of hiding dragon. Unless you're a disciple in the foundation building realm or above, you can't invite disciples who aren't from our school to enter. Oh. His words piqued Mo Tiange's interest. Nascent soul cultivators wouldn't be interested in ordinary treasures at all. Treasures that could make them frequently go there to look for treasures had to be natural treasures. Seeing that Mo Tiange finally looked a little interested, Jiang Shanghang hastily said, "Junior Martial Brother Yi, if it was someone else, I wouldn't want to tell you, but you're my old friend. You're a reliable person and your strength isn't bad, so I felt at ease to ask you to be my companion. You don't need to worry too much, and it won't be dangerous to the point of death. Ever since I built my foundation, I've been there many times, and I always came back safely. As long as I'm careful and well prepared, my life usually won't be in danger." "Is that so?" Mo Tiange was slightly moved by what he said. "That being the case, why did Senior Martial Brother Jiang insist on inviting me? Wouldn't it be better if we went together?" Jiang Shanghang smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I won't hide this from you. I'm just an ordinary foundation building cultivator in Jingfa sect. I don't have a close relationship with my fellow disciples, so I'll always be in a disadvantageous position if we enter the land of hiding dragon together. The few people I have a good relationship with are all mediocre. If Junior Martial Brother Yi goes with me, with your help, I'll be able to have a say." "So that's how it is." Mo Tiange mulled it over in her heart. What he said seemed to be true. Among big cultivation groups, there were also small groups, and Xianqing School was no exception. "Then, when do you plan to go, Senior Martial Brother Jiang?" Upon hearing Mo Tiange's tone and knowing that she didn't refuse, Jiang Shanghang was delighted. He said, "I return to the tribe this time to prepare for my trip to the land of hiding dragon. I've already made an appointment with my fellow disciples, so there's about 10 days left." Mo Tiange nodded. "Senior Martial Brother Jiang, please tell me what I need to pay attention to." "In fact, it's nothing." Jiang Shanghang said, "Presumably, Junior Martial Brother Yi has prepared medicinal pills, magic tools, and so on. There's only one thing, entering the land of hiding dragon requires some secret medicines. Junior Martial Brother doesn't need to worry about this, I'll prepare your share." "All right." Mo Tiange formally agreed. "That being the case, I'll go with Senior Martial Brother Jiang." Jiang Shanghang beamed with joy. "Junior Martial Brother Yi, I'll remember your kindness this time." Mo Tiange waved her hand. "If it's also beneficial to me, it's nothing." Once the two of them finished talking, Mo Tiange observed the surrounding scenery for a while before heading back with Jiang Shanghang. On the way, Jiang Shanghang gave her a brief introduction to the land of hiding dragon. As it turned out, the shamans of the northernmost lands already knew about the land of hiding dragon before Jingfa sect arrived. Every year on the 15th day of the 8th month, they would gather there to offer sacrifices. Occasionally, some people obtained fated chances there and advanced to the foundation building realm. But at that time, the land of hiding dragon didn't have this name yet. After Jingfa sect was established, they learned about the land of hiding dragon and sent a nascent soul Dao ancestor to explore it. In the end, they returned after a thrilling adventure, and the land of hiding dragon's name was passed down. The strange thing was that after several thousand years, countless Jingfa sect disciples entered the land of hiding dragon and obtained a lot of treasures from there, but the number of treasures never decreased. Mo Tiange couldn't help but ask, "Senior Martial Brother Jiang, how's that possible?" Jiang Shanghang answered, "Yes, that's what I thought in the beginning. But ever since I built my foundation, every time I entered the land of hiding dragon, I found that it was completely different from the last time." "Completely different?" Mo Tiange was puzzled. "What kind of scenery is it inside?" Yes, it's completely different. Jiang Shanghang said, the land of hiding dragon is located underwater, so it's a world in the sea. But every time we went inside, we found that the terrain was completely different from the last time. Even the demonic beasts and resources were completely different. Are there any traces of formations inside? Jiang Shanghang smiled bitterly and shook his head. I can't see it. Even our nascent soul grandmasters can't see it. Mo Tiange looked pensive. So you're saying it's an existence that surpasses our current realm? Yes. Jiang Shanghang nodded. Every year on the 15th day of the 8th month, the tide rises. After that, the scenery inside will completely change. We can't stay inside when the tide rises. Of course. It said that there were people who couldn't come out when the tide rose. After a day passed, they couldn't be found anymore. But Jiang Shanghang paused for a moment and said with some hesitation, I once heard from a senior martial brother that the second layer of the land of hiding dragon changes every few years. The second layer. Mo Tiange frowned. Are there several layers inside? Correct. There are 3 layers inside. The first layer can be entered by U.S. foundation building and aura refining disciples, but the second and third layers can only be entered by cultivators in the core formation realm and above. Has this been a rule of your Jingfa sect for several thousand years? Yes. Jiang Shanghang didn't hide anything. This was a rule set by the founder of our sect. Someone once violated it, and as a result, several foundation building cultivators entered the second layer and never came back. Mo Tiange was stunned. It's actually that serious. She pondered for a moment then asked, then what's in the second layer? Did the core formation seniors in your sect say anything? No. Jiang Shanghang shook his head and advised her, Junior Martial Brother Yi, our lives are more important. We'll just go to the first layer. If we're lucky on the first layer, we can also obtain natural treasures, so there's really no need to take risks on the second layer. Chapter 175. After returning to the Seal tribe and parting ways with Jiang Shanghang, Mo Tiange set up a defensive formation and entered the virtual sky world. In fact, she didn't really believe what Jiang Shanghang said. It wasn't very dangerous, but there were a lot of unique treasures. Such a good thing would definitely be considered a complete secret by the people in their sect. Not to mention inviting disciples from other sects, even disciples from their own sect wouldn't know about it. But she didn't think Jiang Shanghang had any bad intentions. Back in Yunwei's sect, she only saved him once in passing, yet he was willing to take the risk to save her. Moreover, he really despised Lu Yidao's method of abandoning Su Jingji. Presumably, although he was a selfish person, he wasn't a sinister person. If he didn't have good intentions for her, he wouldn't have acted like this. In short, Jiang Shanghang's character wasn't bad. He also saved her life once, which was the main reason why she agreed to go with him. Speaking of unique treasures and benefits, she didn't really desire them now. She already had too many things, so she really didn't need to be so greedy. With that thought in mind, Mo Tiange began to make preparations for the trip. Although Jiang Shanghang said she didn't need to prepare anything, Mo Tiange's personality was like this. She always planned before taking action. This way, there would be fewer accidents and she would have a higher chance of survival in a dangerous environment. She took out 2 stone sculpture puppets from her Qianquan bag. With a single thought, the 2 puppets started to get busy. In the center of her virtual sky world, there were several small huts. Outside the huts was a dense bamboo forest. Surrounding the bamboo forest was a small stream, and on the other side of the stream was a large expanse of medicinal fields. After she recognized this virtual sky world as its master, although it went through some preliminary cleaning, the layout didn't change. It was still arranged by its previous master. Now that she summoned the 2 stone sculpture puppets, they quickly cleared the bamboo forest in front of the huts, leaving only half of the forest in the back. Then, she used the chopped bamboos to build several huts in the open space. When the stone sculpture puppets finished building all the huts, Tiange walked towards the largest one. She opened her hand, causing several formation discs to fly out and be placed in the corresponding positions. She made extremely complicated hand seals and shot spiritual aura, causing all the formation discs to light up. Then, she threw the last formation flag and the whole formation was activated. She then put her hand into her Qinquan bag, took out a pill furnace, and put it in the center. This pill furnace was about 2 feet square, covered in dense purple aura, and shrouded in spiritual light. It was the purple wooden furnace Zhong Muling gave her. After taking out the purple wooden furnace and confirming there were no problems, Tiange once again, she gave her divine comprehension. She ordered the 2 stone sculpture puppets to use. While the puppets were busy, Tiange wasn't idle either. She reached into her robe and fished out something. It was none other than the Sunstone Wanderer Ziwei gave her. She took out the Dragon of the World bag and Zhong with the Zhong with, the cultivator, and the purple cave, Zhong had with, Chen Dao, and Ling with Zhong with the puppets, Zhong with, she didn't with, she. With, she, with, Mo with, Mo with, she. Mo with Yang. Holding the sunlight stone in her palm, she took out a talisman brush from her robe with her other hand. Soon after, she used her divine comprehension to force out a drop of blood essence. She dipped the talisman brush in the blood essence and quickly drew lines around the purple wooden furnace. These lines seemed unreasonable, but once they were drawn on the purple wooden furnace, they shone brightly as if they were real. After she finished drawing, Tiange put away the brush, opened the purple wooden furnace, and put the sunlight stone inside. She then made a series of complicated hand seals and sealed the sunlight stone at the bottom of the furnace. Once she was done, she felt a wave of tiredness. Blood essence was a person's foundation. Every drop was extremely precious. Even though she was a foundation-building cultivator, losing 1 drop still made her tired. She sat down cross-legged, took several medicinal pills, and circulated her spiritual aura in her body several times before she finally felt a bit better. At that moment, the 2 stone sculpture puppets had finished arranging the concocting room. The water from the brook was drawn into the small room through a bamboo pipe, dripping into the small pond. She put away the stone sculpture puppets, pondered for a moment, and decided on the type of medicinal pill she would concoct this time. Healing medicinal pills were necessary, but detoxification and mind-calming medicinal pills were also indispensable. Last time in Ziwei's Immortal's Cave, fortunately, Daoist Fangjing brought several mind-calming talismans with him. Otherwise, she would have had to spend a lot of effort. By the time she finished concocting all these medicinal pills, several days had already passed. During this time, she specifically told the maid sent to serve her that she wanted to cultivate clear-headed for several days and not to disturb her if there was nothing important. After that, she prepared some tools that could be used to lay formations temporarily. Time was tight, so she didn't have time to study the Xuanji formation book. However, her attainments in formations had always surpassed cultivators of the same generation, so she was able to lay several sets of formations very quickly, including the 4 symbols 100 flowers formation. If she could finish laying this compound formation, even if she encountered a demonic beast in the 5th rank or above, she wouldn't be completely powerless. In the last few days, Tiange did nothing but closed her eyes, meditated, and adjusted her breath, making her body and mind reach their best state. 10 days later, she came out of the virtual sky world, removed the formation she laid in the igloo, and walked out of the igloo. Jiang Shangheng was already waiting outside. When he saw her coming out, he smiled. Junior Marshal Brother Yi really kept his word. 10 days is 10 days. Mo Tiange nodded with a smile. Since I promised Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, how could I go back on my word? At that moment, the two of them suddenly looked up and saw several flight lights flitting across the sky, eventually disappearing in the north. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, Jiang Shanghang said, it seems they've already gone. Let's go too. They Jiang Shanghang mentioned were the fellow disciples he'd made an appointment with. Mo Tiange nodded. The two of them immediately used their respective methods, turning into two flight lights and swiftly flying away. After flying for about half a day, the two of them once again arrived at the Arctic Sea they went to that day. In the distance, Mo Tiange saw several foundation building cultivators hovering in the air above the seaside. There were both men and women, and based on their clothes, they were Jingfa sect disciples. Jiang Shanghang immediately led Mo Tiange over. Senior Marshal brothers and sisters, I'm late. Please forgive me. Jiang Shanghang raised his hand to greet everyone with a smile. Mo Tiange saw that his current behavior and way of doing things were indeed completely different from before. These Xingfa sect disciples also saluted him back, but there was one person who didn't move. It seemed he was too arrogant to return the salute. Jiang Shanghang naturally also saw it, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he turned to introduce Mo Tiange to his fellow disciples. This is Junior Marshal Sister Yi Xiaotian from Xianqing School. She's also an old friend of mine. Junior Marshal Sister Ye's cultivation level is outstanding, so I specially invited her. Mo Tiange, who deliberately wore Xianqing School's Daoist robes today, cupped her hands towards them in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. I'm Yi Xiaotian. Greetings to fellow Taoists from Jingfa sect. Upon hearing Jiang Shanghang's introduction, the Jingfa sect cultivators' gazes fell on Mo Tiange. Amazement flitted across the male cultivators' eyes, but the two female cultivators' gazes were vigilant. Nevertheless, all of them returned the salute. Xianqing School was very powerful now. Compared to Tiandao sect, the number one cultivation group in the celestial pole, it even seemed to surpass them. Even though Jingfa sect was located in the northernmost area, they still didn't dare to neglect them. Even the most arrogant male cultivator also stared at Mo Tiange and raised his hand to return the salute. Senior Marshal brothers and Senior Marshal sisters. Jiang Shanghang smiled and said, I acted on my own initiative and invited Junior Marshal Sister Yi here. You won't take offense, right? Everyone remained silent and shifted their gazes towards the arrogant male cultivator. That male cultivator was looking at Mo Tiange. Upon hearing Jiang Shanghang's words, he shifted his gaze towards Mo Tiange but immediately withdrew it. Since you're a Junior Marshal sister from Xianqing School, let's come together. Jiang Shanghang finally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that person relenting. He raised his hand and said, Thank you, Senior Marshal Brother Ren. That person still didn't respond and just stood there motionlessly. Jiang Shanghang didn't mind. He turned towards Mo Tiange and said, Junior Marshal Sister Yi, come, let me introduce you. Calling her Junior Marshal Brother Yi in front of outsiders was really strange, so he changed the way he addressed her. Among the 6 men and 2 women in front of them, the arrogant male cultivator with the highest cultivation level was in the late stage of the foundation building realm. The other 2 male cultivators were in the middle stage of the foundation building realm, while the rest, including Jiang Shanghang, were all in the early stage of the foundation building realm. Jiang Shanghang introduced them one by one. This is Senior Marshal Brother Lu Rongxing, Senior Marshal Brother Xiang Jiang, Senior Marshal Brother Qiu Jiming, Junior Marshal Brother Tang Fang, and Junior Marshal Brother Yu Shaoran. He then moved on to the 2 female cultivators. This is Senior Marshal Sister Ai Xian, Senior Marshal Sister Xia. Mo Tiange once again saluted them. Among these people, Lu Rongxing and Xiang Jiang were in the middle stage of the foundation building realm, while the others were in the early stage. The male cultivators were obviously more enthusiastic towards her, but the two female cultivators were lukewarm, which made Mo Tiange feel a bit strange. Finally, it was the arrogant male cultivator with the highest cultivation level. Jiang Shanghang put him last, but it was unclear whether he was being cautious or for some other reason. This is Senior Martial Brother Ren Yufeng, our leader this time. Senior Martial Brother Ren is our martial uncle Buki's inner disciple. Not only is his cultivation level high, but his skills are also outstanding. Although Jiang Shanghang said that, his tone was indifferent. Greetings, Senior Martial Brother Ren. Mo Tiange clasped her hands. Since she called Jiang Shanghang Senior Martial Brother, she naturally had to call him Senior Martial Brother. Between friends, they usually called each other Senior Martial Brother or Junior Martial Brother. Ren Yufeng returned the salute, then finally said, Junior Martial Sister Yi, you're really young and promising. From what I see, you shouldn't be more than 80 years old, right? Mo Tiange smiled but didn't deny it. She maintained her appearance as if she was 20 years old. Based on the lifespan of foundation building cultivators, if she was 80 years old or younger, she would have her normal appearance instead of the effects of a look-preserving pill. Although look-preserving pills could keep one's appearance unchanged, experienced cultivators would most likely be able to see some clues. Probably because people were getting older, some of their behaviors and actions would naturally be different. Senior Martial Brother Ren is too polite. I was just lucky. Lucky? Ren Yufeng chuckled, then said meaningfully, if you could make a realm breakthrough just because you were lucky, wouldn't the world be full of high-level cultivators? His words were a bit strange, so Mo Tiange just smiled and didn't say anything. Ren Yufeng swept his gaze over everyone, then said, good people, everyone's here, we can set out now. No one had any objections. A group of 10 people rode on their flying magic tools, then flew towards that huge iceberg together. Mo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang were at the very back. Mo Tiange thought for a moment, then sent Jiang Shanghang a secret message, Senior Martial Brother Jiang, why are their attitudes so strange? It seems like your senior martial sisters don't really welcome me. A strange smile appeared on Jiang Shanghang's face. He also sent her a secret message, Junior Martial Brother Yi, you've probably been disguised as a man for too long that you've forgotten you're a woman, right? It's perfectly normal for my two senior martial sisters to dislike you. Women simply can't bear to see other people prettier than them. Chapter 176. Jiang Shanghang's answer stunned Mo Tiange. This, Jiang Shanghang smiled. Junior Martial Brother Yi, you've been in Kunwu for a long time and have seen many beautiful women in the cultivation world, so you don't think much of yourself. But this is the northernmost area. Haven't you noticed that these two senior martial sisters look ordinary? Upon hearing that, Mo Tiange looked towards the front. Ai Xian and Xiahou Yuan were indeed too ordinary in terms of their statuses as cultivators. There are very few beautiful women in the northernmost area. I wasn't used to it when I first came here, so I didn't think much of you before. Now that we meet again, I realize I missed a beauty. Jiang Shanghang said jokingly. Mo Tiange really wasn't used to this kind of joke, so she said helplessly, Senior Martial Brother Jiang, don't tease me. I'm thin-skinned. Hee hee. Seeing that she really looked uncomfortable, Jiang Shanghang stopped talking. I'm sorry, Junior Martial Brother Yi. I shouldn't have made such a frivolous joke with you. Mo Tiange shook her head. It's just that I'm not used to it. Senior Martial Brother Jiang, you don't have to worry about it. Jiang Shanghang thought for a moment, then comforted her. Junior Martial Brother Yi, you don't have to worry. These senior martial brothers are just a bit curious about you because they're used to seeing female disciples from our school. Besides, even if those two senior martial sisters don't like you, you're a Xianqing school disciple after all, so they won't do anything to you. I know. Cultivators were always wise. Besides, she wasn't a peerless beauty who could make people crazy with jealousy. However, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the current situation. As it turned out, one's appearance had to be set off. When she was in Kunwu, Bai Yanfei was the only one who showed goodwill to her, and that was because she was suitable for him. It wasn't until she arrived in the northernmost area that she realized she could also be considered a beauty. She looked at her temporary teammates again. Lu Xiang and Zhang Shanghang were slightly older, they seemed to be in their 40s, while the others looked like they were in their 20s or 30s. They were, after all, cultivators from cultivation groups, so they were much younger than individual cultivators. However, their appearances were indeed quite average, they weren't as good-looking as the cultivators in Kunwu. Mo Tiange swept her gaze over Zhang Shanghang. She couldn't help but feel the urge to make a joke. Compared to these people, Zhang Shanghang was also a lot more handsome. The group of 10 flew for a long time, but the iceberg was still in sight. Mo Tiange wrinkled her brows then asked Zhang Shanghang, "Senior martial brother Jiang, it doesn't seem that far." Jiang Shanghang explained, "Junior martial brother Yi, there's something you don't know, but in our northernmost area, there are glaciers everywhere. It's an expanse of white, so if you look at it, you'll have an illusion. The land of hiding dragon is actually thousands of miles away. So that's how it is. To a foundation establishment cultivator, several thousand li would indeed take a long time to fly." After flying for a while, the iceberg finally came closer. It wasn't until she saw it that she realized the magnificence of this iceberg wasn't inferior to the other mountains in Kunwu. The majesty of Kunwu lay in its vast mountains that stretched for over 10,000 li. Each mountain was connected to another, and the scenery was different from each other. Some were steep and marvelous, some were graceful and calm. However, the iceberg in front of them just stood there by itself. The several thousand feet tall ice peak was lonely and silent, as if it had been overlooking the northernmost ocean ever since time immemorial. It watched the surrounding icebergs drift and the sea turn into mulberry fields while it stood there alone forever. This was a kind of solitary and proud beauty. Zhang Shanghang looked up and said, "According to the legends of the northernmost people, this iceberg was here from the beginning. Other icebergs melted, disappeared, or drifted away, but it was the only one that remained like this since ancient times. Why didn't it melt?" Mo Tiange couldn't help but ask. Under the sunlight, every ice peak was sparkling and translucent, looking magnificent and magnificent. "I don't know." This time, the one who answered was Ren Yufeng. His cultivation level was the highest among them and he was also their leader, so he was currently standing at the forefront. "The land of hiding dragon is like this. Even nascent soul grandmasters can't answer these questions. Maybe we'll have to wait until we become deification cultivators before we can answer some of them." Ren Yufeng's gaze swept over them. "Junior martial brothers and sisters, are you ready? If you're ready, we'll go in now." Mo Tiange looked at Zhang Shanghang. Before this trip, Zhang Shanghang said she needed some special things, but he'd prepare them for her. At that moment, Zhang Shanghang took out a palm-sized pouch and handed it to Mo Tiange. "Junior martial sister Yi, these are bubble fruits. After eating one, a water-repelling barrier will form around your body that can last for a day. There are several dozens of them here, so they should be enough." Bubble fruit. What a childish name. Mo Tiange took the pouch and imitated them. She took out a plum-like fruit, took a bite, and swallowed it. And the taste wasn't bad, it was a bit sweet. Jiang Shanghang also ate one, then moved closer to her and said, "This fruit is unique to the northernmost land, it's often used to coax children." While they were speechless, Ren Yufeng led everyone to dive into the water. Mo Tiange saw that they didn't use a defensive barrier, but after they went into the water, a water-repelling barrier automatically formed around their bodies. This bubble fruit really lived up to its name. After diving several hundred feet into the water, everyone finally stopped. Ren Yufeng took out a jade talisman, then muttered some unknown incantation. Several streams of spiritual aura hit the surface of the ice, causing ripples on the surface of the ice to ripple. A black hole slowly appeared on the surface of the ice, which was flat and flawless a moment ago. This was an extremely brilliant restriction, but even with Mo Tiange's attainments in formations, she couldn't see any clues. Apparently, the nascent soul grandmasters of Jingfa's sect also attached great importance to this place. But this made Mo Tiange even more puzzled. Since this was Jingfa's sect's important place, why did they invite her, a disciple from another cultivation group, to come? Jiang Shanghang trusted her, so why didn't the others have any objections? Without much time to think, Ren Yufeng already turned around. Under the water, his voice sounded a bit distorted. "Junior martial brothers and sisters, we're going in now. Be careful." Everyone cupped their hands and responded with solemn expressions on their faces. At that moment, Mo Tiange actually wanted to laugh. This was her first time seeing such a scene. There were so many foundation building cultivators, and every one of them was talking with a bubble above their head. It was really interesting. Under Ren Yufeng's lead, the 10 of them slowly passed through the black hole. Mo Tiange followed behind them. Jiang Shanghang deliberately asked her to swim in front of him. Once they passed through the hole, the scenery in front of them changed, and they instantly felt warm all over. There was only ice and water under the northernmost sea, but inside this iceberg, there was actually a vast expanse of blue ocean. Inside the ocean, there were lush aquatic plants and shoals of fish. The water refracted specks of light. It was completely a scene of a warm ocean. Mo Tiange looked up. She even felt that the surface of the water and the sunlight weren't far from her. A shoal of finger-sized silver fish swam over. Under the refraction of water and light, their silvery white scales shone with silvery light, looking extremely wonderful. She was somewhat fascinated by this kind of scenery. She even wanted to reach out and stroke these silver fish, but behind her, Jiang Shanghang's expression suddenly changed. A sword appeared in his hand and he slashed it towards the shoal of fish. Mo Tiange was startled. When she turned around to look, she discovered that everyone else also had the same expression and each of them had taken out their magic tools. No matter how stupid she was, she should have realized there was something wrong with these silver fish. She immediately took out the shuttle of flying Apsara, causing a golden ray to scatter. However, since she was underwater, her strength was somewhat lacking, so she was obviously a lot slower. Once she realized this problem, Mo Tiange pondered inwardly. These Jingfa sect disciples came here all year round, so their attacks weren't hindered in the slightest. She, on the other hand, was hindered by the water, so her strength was reduced. This was very disadvantageous to her. With the 10 foundation building cultivators taking action, this shoal of small fish was quickly wiped out. While everyone was cleaning up the scene, Mo Tiange asked Jiang Shanghang in a low voice, "Senior martial brother Jiang, these small fish only have a little bit of spiritual aura, they're basically not demonic beasts, so why are they?" Jiang Shanghang put away his sword and said, "Junior martial sister Yi, these fish indeed aren't demonic beasts, but they have strange teeth. If we're touched by them, they'll bite us, they can even bite through our protective barriers." Mo Tiange was shocked. She'd never heard of anything that wasn't a demonic beast being able to harm cultivators. Sure enough, the world was big, nothing was too strange. Then, the seemingly harmless water plants actually stretched out their tentacles, trying to entangle them. There were even huge mouths in the bushes that wanted to swallow them whole. It had only been 2 hours since they entered the interior of this iceberg, but they'd already encountered several fierce battles in succession. Only then did Mo Tiange understand what Jiang Shanghang meant. When facing these strange creatures, they had to be vigilant at all times. Things that seemed harmless might actually kill them. Therefore, danger lurked everywhere here. There were many small things that you might not notice, but they were actually dangerous things. However, if you were vigilant all the time, killing these seemingly harmless things wasn't difficult at all. By the time they finished killing a group of transparent jellyfish, they'd already arrived at a huge coral reef. The coral had a bright red luster. Mo Tiange could see that these corals were full of spiritual aura, so they could be considered treasures. At this moment, the leader, Ren Yufeng, stopped. He turned around and said, "Junior martial brothers and sisters, these red flame corals are hard to come by, so we can pick as many as we want. However, there might be some dangerous little things hidden among them, so you must be careful." Everyone nodded and agreed. Soon afterward, they scattered in all directions, looking for a piece that caught their fancy. Jiang Shanghang also pulled Mo Tiange to a spot and said, "Junior martial sister Yi, these red flame corals are at least 1,000 years old. Let's pick some of them and take them back. Even if we don't get anything else later, this trip won't be in vain." Corals were only used in a few special pill recipes. They had never been used in tool refining, so they weren't very valuable. Nevertheless, they were still spiritual objects that were 1,000 years old and rarely circulated in the world. If they kept some of them, they might be able to use them in the future. Jiang Shanghang had already taken out his flying sword and was carefully cutting a clump of coral. Mo Tiange imitated him. She also took out her own small flying sword and carefully cut a piece of coral. After confirming there was no danger, she finally put it into her chinquan bag. After collecting several pieces, Mo Tiange finally stopped. She wasn't greedy. Ren Yufeng said there might be danger in these coral clumps, so taking these risks for things that weren't too precious wasn't worth it. After a while, Ren Yufeng also spoke. "That'll do. Everyone, stop. Don't pick too many, it won't be worth it if there's danger." Once he spoke, all the Jingfa sect cultivators obediently stopped, collected their harvests, and moved closer to him. Everyone gathered together, but Ren Yufeng didn't seem to have any intention of moving forward. Instead, he swept his gaze over everyone with a very solemn expression. In the end, his gaze fell on Mo Tiange, but he said to Jiang Shanghang, "Junior martial brother Jiang, have you told junior martial sister Yi about the purpose of this trip?" Chapter 177. Mo Tiange frowned slightly. Sure enough, Jiang Shanghang had something he didn't say. Jiang Shanghang glanced at her then said to Ren Yufeng, "I haven't told you in detail." Ren Yufeng said, "Then it's time." Mo Tiange turned to look at Jiang Shanghang, waiting for his explanation. Although she already knew this matter wasn't that simple, she still felt unhappy now that it was laid out in front of her. Faced with her gaze, Jiang Shanghang coughed and said somewhat uncomfortably, "Junior martial sister Yi, don't be angry. I didn't say it before because this matter is very important. My previous promise is still valid now. I didn't say it clearly because it was inconvenient." Mo Tiange merely raised the corner of her lips, declining to comment. She had already guessed it, so she wasn't very angry. However, if she didn't care too much about it, people might think she had no temper. Upon seeing Jiang Shanghang's awkward expression, Ren Yufeng interrupted, "Let me say it." Jiang Shanghang looked at him, hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he retreated. Mo Tiange watched him coldly. With Ren Yufeng's arrogant behavior, how could Jiang Shanghang dare to object to him? It seemed what Jiang Shanghang said to her before was true. He was only an ordinary disciple and was in a weak position in front of fellow disciples of Jingfa sect. Facing her, Ren Yufeng put away his previous arrogance and said sternly, "Junior Marshal Sister Yi, if you don't agree to what I'm going to say next, I'll let you go. However, you have to swear on your inner demon that you'll never say anything." Mo Tiange frowned slightly. What could be so serious? She said faintly, "Senior Marshal Brother Ren, just say it." "So what if I agree or not? Everyone here is your fellow disciples, so it'll be very easy to deal with me." Ren Yufeng choked on her words, and Jiang Shanghang even turned his head away. That was indeed their plan. In any case, she was alone, so if she didn't agree, they could use force to threaten her. However, Mo Tiange said it so bluntly, causing their faces to burn. After all, bullying a single woman really wasn't something to be proud of. Nevertheless, Ren Yufeng's skin was thick enough, so he quickly regained his composure. He said, "Junior Marshal Sister Yi, do you think the masters in the group would allow us to tell others about a place like the Land of Hiding Dragon where we can often find unique treasures?" Upon hearing what he said, Mo Tiange cast a glance at Jiang Shanghang. "So you're saying, everything Senior Marshal Brother Jiang said before was false?" "Of course not." Jiang Shanghang hastily denied it. "The Land of Hiding Dragon is indeed a place where we can often find treasures. Aside from the fact that it's a secret of our school, everything else is true." "Oh." Mo Tiange turned to look at Ren Yufeng. "Then what did Senior Marshal Brother Ren mean?" "We'll have to start from the time we entered the Land of Hiding Dragon." Ren Yufeng stared sharply at Mo Tiange as if he was observing her expression. He said slowly, 3 months ago, I, Junior Marshal Brother Xiang, Junior Marshal Brother Tang, and Junior Marshal Brother Jiang entered the Land of Hiding Dragon together and discovered a secret place. Unfortunately, the 4 of us weren't strong enough, so we returned in low spirits. In the following months, we've been looking for trustworthy people to enter with us so we can find treasures." "What does that have to do with me?" Mo Tiange was puzzled. "Fellow disciples like you are more trustworthy than an outsider like me. If you want to look for companions, you should look for your fellow disciples." "Let's talk about this secret place first," Ren Yufeng said. "The last time we entered this place, we accidentally encountered a 5th-rank demonic beast as soon as we entered. Although a 5th-rank demonic beast is equivalent to a cultivator in the core formation realm, it's not like the 4 of us didn't have the power to fight it. What's worse is that this demonic beast has an extremely strong resistance to water and ice element spells. Junior Marshal Sister Yi must know that our Jingfa sect is built on the northernmost glaciers, and all the disciples in our sect practice water and ice element cultivation techniques. Even our magic tools are of this type, so we could only retreat in defeat. So you wanted to find a cultivator who isn't a disciple of your sect to deal with this demonic beast?" "Correct." Seeing that there was nothing unusual about her expression, Ren Yufeng relaxed a bit and said frankly, "Unfortunately, our Jingfa sect is located in the northernmost region, so outsiders rarely come here. Even if there are foreign cultivators, we don't want them if their cultivation levels aren't high enough or if their character isn't reliable. Previously, I already had the idea to go to Kunwo to find a suitable candidate." Mo Tiange was silent. If it was really as they said, this matter wasn't unacceptable. As soon as Junior Marshal Sister Yi arrived in the northernmost region, Junior Marshal Brother Jiang had the idea and sent me a message to ask whether it was feasible. He guaranteed you were a trustworthy person, so I agreed. In other words, Jiang Shanghang had a premeditated plan from the beginning. As she thought up to this point, Mo Tiange glanced at him expressionlessly. Although the matter wasn't serious, she still felt unhappy. She didn't mind self-interest, but she really minded being dragged into a matter without permission. Jiang Shanghang was a bit embarrassed. He seemed to want to explain, but in the end, he gave up. Alright, Senior Marshal Brother Ren, please tell me what I need to pay attention to. Also, what I'll get in the end, what I have to give. Of course. Upon seeing that she agreed, Ren Yufeng smiled. First of all, I want to tell Junior Marshal Sister Yi that the level of danger inside isn't much different from the first layer of the Land of Hiding Dragon. It's just that there's a 5th-ranked demonic beast guarding the door. Although 5th-ranked demonic beasts are equivalent to core formation cultivators, they're not core formation cultivators, so their intelligence is far inferior to humans. I've already thought of a way to deal with this demonic beast. What Junior Marshal Sister Yi has to do is listen to my instructions and attack it. Since Junior Marshal Sister Yi has become our companion, you can naturally get a share of the treasures. As for how much you get, it'll depend on how much you do. Mo Tiange nodded. She could accept all of this, but, Senior Marshal Brother Ren, it's not that I don't trust you, but I'm alone on this trip, so it's really a bit. She paused and swept her gaze over everyone in front of her. Ren Yufeng understood what she meant, so he asked, Junior Marshal Sister Yi, if you have any requests, just say them. If I can agree to them, I'll definitely agree. Alright. Mo Tiange said bluntly, I want Senior Marshal Brother Ren to make an oath that you won't hurt me on this trip. If you succeed in the end, you'll definitely let me leave safely. Ren Yufeng was silent. He naturally understood what she wanted him to make an oath. Just now, he asked Mo Tiange to make a heart demon oath if she didn't agree. Now, Mo Tiange only asked him to come back. He clenched his teeth then said heavily, fine. Upon hearing his answer, Ai Xian, a female cultivator from Jingfa sect, cried out involuntarily, Senior Marshal Brother Ren, how could you do that? Ren Yufeng swept a glance at her then said faintly, Junior Marshal Sister Ye's concerns aren't unreasonable. Besides, if I don't intend to violate your promise, it doesn't matter if I make an oath or not. Mo Tiange smiled. Senior Marshal Brother Ren is really bold. Junior Marshal Sister feels ashamed of her inferiority. Although she said that, she didn't take back what she said. There were 9 people on the other side, and she was alone. Who knew if they wouldn't want to share a share of the loot with her and would try to rob her of the treasures she had? Although Jiang Shanghang was familiar with her and probably wouldn't harm her, his status wasn't high enough, so he still had to see what Ren Yufeng thought. Among these people, Ren Yufeng, who had the highest status, was only an inner disciple of a core formation cultivator. Presumably, even if he had magic weapons or whatnot, they wouldn't be of high grade, so it wasn't impossible for him to covet them. I, Ren Yufeng, swear by my inner demon that I won't harm Junior Marshal Sister Yi Xiaotian on this trip. I'll also restrain my fellow disciples and let Junior Marshal Sister Yi leave safely afterward. After thinking up to this point, he opened his eyes and looked at Mo Tiange. Is this okay? Seeing that Ren Yufeng had indeed made a heart demon oath, Mo Tiange immediately smiled and said, that being the case, Senior Marshal Brother Ren can continue. I have no more questions. Everyone heaved sighs of relief when they heard what she said. Ren Yufeng then said, all right, since Junior Marshal Sister Yi has no objections, we'll start preparing. Everyone knows what we need to prepare, so let's get started. Right after he finished speaking, everyone started to get busy. Mo Tiange didn't know what they were going to do, but Jiang Shanghang came over and said, Junior Marshal Sister Yi, this is Jingfa sect's cold ice protective talisman. That 5th-ranked demonic beast also belongs to the water element, so it'll be safer if you carry it with you. Mo Tiange took the talisman then said faintly, thank you, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, for your consideration. Her words were neither cold nor warm, she didn't seem angry, but she also didn't seem to have any intention of forgiving her, causing Jiang Shanghang to have a bellyful of words to say. Feeling helpless, he could only turn around and continue with his own matter. Aside from Mo Tiange, the other 9 Jingfa sect cultivators followed Ren Yufeng's instructions. Each of them chose a position and laid spirit stones around themselves, seemingly preparing some kind of formation. Mo Tiange watched them for a while. With her attainments in formations, she could tell they were laying a defensive fortification formation. However, she didn't understand why they laid a formation here. Before long, the fortification formation was finally laid. Ren Yufeng called out, "Junior Martial Sister Yi, please come here." At that moment, aside from Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang, all of them walked towards the center of the formation. Mo Tiange also walked over. Upon seeing that they all entered the formation, Ren Yufeng said, "Junior Martial brothers and sisters, stay here. In a moment, Junior Martial brother Xiang and I will lure that 5th rank water carp beast over. At that time, you'll need to activate the formation. You must withstand it. Junior Martial Sister Yi, you don't need to worry about anything. When the time comes, we'll naturally protect you. You just need to focus on using powerful magic tools and spells to attack it." The Jingfa sect cultivators all nodded. Mo Tiange responded with a yes. She hoped Ren Yufeng would keep his promise. If that was the case, she would actually be the most relaxed among them. At that moment, aside from Mo Tiange, the other 7 people were already standing in their respective positions. This was the position of the Big Dipper. The one with the highest cultivation level, Lu Rongxing, stood at the forefront to preside over the formation. As for Mo Tiange, she stood in the very center, precisely the position where the formation would protect her. Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang's whereabouts were also unknown. Mo Tiange guessed they made the 8 of them stay here because it was a way to deal with that demonic beast. It was also possible that the secret place required a special method to open, so they didn't want them to see it. Before long, Lu Rongxing shouted, "It's here." Once they heard what he said, the 7 people each took out their magic tools and gathered their spiritual aura. When their magic tools were overflowing with spiritual aura, Lu Rongxing shouted, "Activate the formation." The 7 people raised their spirit tools at the same time. 7 streams of spiritual aura hit the 7 eyes of the formation. The spiritual aura soared into the sky, but all of them were blue. Jingfa sect cultivators all practice water element cultivation techniques, so their spiritual aura was naturally the same. The 7 streams of spiritual aura converged above the formation, forming a protective cover that firmly protected the 8 people inside the formation. Mo Tiange also took out several magic weapons and magic tools, preparing herself for the battle. Her divine sense was stronger than Lu Rongxing's, not weaker. Although she wasn't as agile as Jingfa sect cultivators underwater, she had long sensed that Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang had returned. Now that the formation was activated, the aura of that 5th rank demonic beast was already assaulting them. Chapter 178. This wasn't Mo Tiange's first time facing a 5th rank demonic beast, but it was her first time fighting underwater. In the distance, Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang were rushing over. She didn't know what kind of escaping technique they used, but their speed in the water was actually faster than on land. Presumably, Jingfa sect was good at water spells, so using escaping water in the water complemented each other. The 2 of them rushed over and shouted, "Formation." Lu Rongxing immediately waved the wooden sword in his hand and shouted, "Open the formation." The 7 of them cast their spells together. A bright light burst out of the defensive formation, opening a gap. Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang flew inside. Lu Rongxing shouted again, "Close the formation." The gap emitted a spiritual light and closed in an instant. Just as the defensive barrier closed, the water carp beast's aura ferociously rushed over. For a moment, the faces of the 10 people inside the barrier turned pale. Although they'd long thought of a way to deal with this beast, it was still a demonic beast equivalent to a core formation cultivator. Its powerful momentum when it rushed over was hard for foundation-building cultivators like them to take it seriously. Ren Yufeng shouted, "Junior Martial Brothers, calm down. Our 7 stars absolute formation can definitely block it." As he spoke, the water carp beast had already seen the people in front of it. Demonic beasts usually acted on instinct, let alone one that was already enraged. The water carp beast was about to crash into them. Mo Tiange tried her best to stay calm. Looking from inside the formation, this water carp beast was even bigger than the 10 of them combined. Its whole body was as dark as ink, and it looked like an ordinary carp, but it had a huge head and crisscrossed black teeth in its mouth. It was indeed terrifyingly ugly. When the water carp beast crashed into them, the momentum of a 5th-rank demonic beast was extremely fierce. Mo Tiange almost thought they would be swallowed by this demonic beast in one bite. However, the blue defensive barrier blocked it. When the demonic beast crashed into the barrier, the blue light flickered, but it was still blocked. Upon seeing this, not only Mo Tiange, but Ren Yufeng and the others also heaved sighs of relief. They laid this formation because they were confident in it, but their confidence still needed to be verified in reality. Now that they saw the water carp beast was indeed blocked, smiles appeared on their faces. Junior Martial Brothers and Sisters. Everyone saw it, act according to the plan. Everyone responded and stuck to their positions. Ren Yufeng said to Mo Tiange, "Junior Martial Sister Yi, this water carp beast has a very powerful spell, but it takes a long time to cast. Once this spell is over, we will temporarily open the formation. At that time, you can attack with all your might." All right. This wasn't difficult. However, after thinking about it, she asked Ren Yufeng, "Senior Martial Brother Ren, when we open the formation, will it, Junior Sister Yi, just believe me?" Before she could finish her question, Ren Yufeng interrupted her. He stared nervously at the water carp beast in front of him and simply didn't feel like answering her question. The arrogant temperament he had when they first met had unknowingly resurfaced. Mo Tiange wrinkled her brows but didn't say anything. In Xianqing School, there really weren't many people who dared to talk to her like this. As Lord Daoist Jinghe's disciple, how could other people dare to provoke her? This Ren Yufeng's temper really wasn't small, but Mo Tiange didn't know whether he had the strength to match his temper or not. Just as Mo Tiange was deep in thought, Ren Yufeng suddenly shouted, "Now! Open the formation." Upon hearing what he said, Lu Rongxing waved the wooden sword in his hand. "Open the formation." In an instant, a crack appeared in the defensive barrier above their heads. Ren Yufeng shouted again, "Attack!" Mo Tiange raised her hand. The shuttle of flying Apsara flew out of the crack in the formation, turned into a golden ray and shot towards the water carp beast. At the same time, Ren Yufeng and Xiang Jiang's magic tools also arrived, but they were only flying swords. Presumably, they didn't have time to refine magic tools with attributes of the other 5 elements, so they could only use the most common flying swords. Ren Yufeng's and Xiang Jiang's flying swords rapidly slashed towards the water carp beast, but this demonic beast's skin was very tough. When the 2 flying swords slashed at it, they only managed to leave a white mark on its skin. They were basically unable to pierce into its body. Mo Tiange attacked with her shuttle of flying Apsara. The golden ray circled around the water carp beast. At that moment, the 2 people's flying swords had already returned in defeat. Ren Yufeng said anxiously, "Junior Martial Sister Yi, hurry." Mo Tiange didn't even spare him a glance. The golden ray fell from above and suddenly pierced the water carp beast's body. The water carp beast screamed in pain and suddenly went berserk. Ren Yufeng and the others were delighted. At least Mo Tiange's magic tools could harm this demonic beast, so this trip wasn't in vain. "Junior Martial Sister Yi." Ren Yufeng shouted, "It's up to you." Mo Tiange didn't say anything. She took out a stack of high-grade talismans and threw them. She saw that the raging sand outside was actually several earth element talismans. This water carp beast's attribute was water, and earth restrained water, so these talismans just happened to hit its weak point. The water carp beast was furious. It swung its tail and fiercely hit the defensive barrier. The blue defensive barrier trembled, and Lu Rongsheng, who was in charge of the formation, vomited a mouthful of blood. Even though they were prepared, the furious attack of a 5th-ranked demonic beast wasn't easy to withstand. Seeing that the water carp beast had gone berserk and seemed to be preparing some kind of spell, Ren Yufeng shouted, "Stop attacking. Close the formation." Upon hearing him, Mo Tiange circulated her spiritual aura, immediately withdrawing the shuttle of flying Apsara and closing the formation. Seeing that these people could only see it but couldn't hit it, the water carp beast became furious again. It swung its tail and hit the defensive barrier with all its might. After several hits, Lu Rongsheng vomited several mouthfuls of blood. Upon seeing this, Ren Yufeng immediately ordered, "Junior Marshal Brother Xiang, replace Junior Marshal Brother Lu." Xiang Jiang answered and walked to Lu Rongsheng's position. He then took out his own magic tool. It was a jade tablet. Mo Tiange frowned slightly upon seeing this. Xiang Jiang replaced Lu Rongsheng. Lu Rongsheng's injuries were too heavy, so he couldn't fight for the time being. That left only Ren Yufeng and her to attack. The damage of Ren Yufeng's flying sword was limited, so she didn't have much confidence in dealing with a 5th-rank demonic beast by herself. But in this situation, she couldn't retreat even if she wanted to, so she could only clench her teeth and persevere. Junior Marshal Sister Yi. During this gap, Ren Yufeng glanced at her hand and said, "Your magic tool is really powerful." Mo Tiange said faintly, "It was given to me by my master when I was building my foundation. Fortunately, it's come in handy." "Is that so?" Ren Yufeng asked, "Junior Marshal Sister Yi, who's your master in Xianqing School?" "When I was young, I also traveled to Kunwu, so I know several seniors in Xianqing School. Maybe I happen to know Junior Marshal Sister Ye's master." Mo Tiange chuckled then said vaguely, "I'm a disciple of Clear Spring Peak. My master hasn't gone out for many years, so Senior Marshal Brother Ren probably doesn't know him." "Oh." She spoke so vaguely, but Ren Yufeng was also a perceptive person. He could tell she didn't want to talk about it, so he didn't continue asking. He just stared at her thoughtfully for a while before continuing to watch the water carp beast outside. Jingfa Sect's 7 stars absolute formation was indeed outstanding. Even though the water carp beast was enraged, it still firmly withstood the attacks. The time to open the formation for the second time soon arrived. This time, the water carp beast was already slightly injured, so Ren Yufeng's flying sword was finally effective. It left a slight cut on the water carp beast's body. Mo Tiange still attacked with the shuttle of flying Apsara, mixed with flying needles and small flying knives. Unfortunately, this water carp beast's skin was really thick. Aside from the shuttle of flying Apsara, nothing else could do much damage to it. As for talismans, she'd already thrown out several high-grade talismans, so she didn't have many left. She didn't want to waste any more. After grinding for a while, the water carp beast's temper was once again provoked, so the formation closed again. This repeated several times. The water carp beast was helpless against them, and it also suffered many small injuries. Finally, its strength was somewhat exhausted, and its movements also started to slow down. Seeing this situation, Ren Yufeng said happily, "Everyone, be more alert. The water carp beast's movements are slow, we'll be able to grind it to death soon." Upon hearing Ren Yufeng's reminder, the Jingfa sect cultivators who were painstakingly guarding the eye of the formation glanced at the water carp beast. Their spirits were all shaken. Even Lu Rongsheng, who was sitting cross-legged to heal his injuries, also opened his eyes in excitement. Xiang Jiang, who was in charge of the formation in Lu Rongxing's place, also raised his head to take a look. He then said weakly, "Senior Marshal Brother Ren. If this doesn't work, I won't be able to hold on for much longer." For such a strengthened defensive formation, the person in charge of the formation had to endure a lot more attacks than the others. Among them, including Mo Tiange, there were only 3 middle-stage foundation building cultivators and 1 late-stage foundation building cultivator. Ren Yufeng had to take command, and Mo Tiange didn't understand Jingfa Sect's cultivation technique, so only Lu Rongxing and Xiang Jiang could preside over this formation. Lu Rongxing was already exhausted, so no one could replace Xiang Jiang. Seeing Xiang Jiang's condition, Ren Yufeng muttered to himself for a while, then said, "Junior Marshal Brother Xiang, if you can't hold on for much longer, the next time we open the formation, we'd better work harder and directly kill this water carp beast." These words were actually directed at Mo Tiange. Mo Tiange was currently meditating. Although she didn't need to continuously output her spiritual aura, attacking a 5th-rank demonic beast really consumed a lot of her spiritual aura, so she could only make the best use of this time to quickly recover her spiritual aura. Mo Tiange opened her eyes and stood up. "Senior Marshal Brother Ren, I don't have many talismans left, so I'm really not sure if I want to directly kill it next time." "Rest assured, Junior Marshal Sister Yi," Ren Yufeng said anxiously, "your talismans are only useful. When we find the treasures, we'll give you more." Mo Tiange wanted to say that wasn't what she meant, but after thinking about it, she didn't say it. She still had a killing move she hadn't used because she always felt it wasn't the right time yet. However, she couldn't care about that now. Aside from her, these Jingfa sect cultivators didn't have any effective means to deal with this water carp beast. If she didn't use it and their defensive formation was broken, it'd be very difficult for her to get away with it. Just as she was thinking, the formation was activated once again. Ren Yufeng shouted, "Junior Marshal Sister Yi, go all out." Right after he said that, his flying sword took the lead. Mo Tiange didn't hesitate. She threw the shuttle of flying Apsara, and at the same time, her divine sense, which had been strengthened by the soul-refining art, also reached out. The tangible divine sense cultivated by the soul-refining art was extremely fine, and it couldn't be seen in the slightest. That 5th-rank water carp beast only sensed something pouncing on it, so it waved its fins, wanting to hit it. However, the tangible divine sense wasn't the same as other characteristics. The moment it waved its fins, Mo Tiange immediately dispersed this tangible divine sense, turning it back into an ordinary divine sense. The water carp beast moved its eyeballs in confusion. In the next second, Mo Tiange slightly gathered her divine sense again, then ruthlessly lashed it at the demonic beast. Gulp! The water carp beast grunted. Its primordial spirit was hit. The way to deal with the soul-refining art was very simple: guard your mind and don't use your own divine sense. That way, your primordial spirit would be hidden deep inside your sea of knowledge, and no one could enter it at will. However, whether it was cultivators or demonic beasts, using their divine sense in battle was almost instinctive. Divine sense was like their eyes, so how could they possibly guard against this move? Demonic beasts in particular didn't have any intelligence, so using their divine sense was a subconscious action. Taking advantage of the fact that the water carp beast's primordial spirit was hit, Mo Tiange followed up with another attack. At the same time, she maneuvered the shuttle of flying Apsara to make it look like she was attacking. Chapter 179. Her divine sense once again lashed out, hitting the water carp beast's primordial spirit. At the same time, the shuttle of flying Apsara's golden rays fiercely enveloped it. The water carp beast let out a loud roar as it furiously swung its tail, furiously hitting the defensive barrier with all its might. The 7 people supporting the fortified defensive formation were instantly injured. Xiang Jiang's expression changed, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The defensive barrier above his head also shook and looked like it was on the verge of breaking. Ren Yufeng said happily, "It's going to die soon. Hold on a little longer." Mo Tiange glared at him angrily. He was the only late-stage foundation building cultivator on the scene, yet he didn't even help in such a dangerous situation. Even if his spells and magic tools couldn't harm the water carp beast, he could still transfer spiritual aura to her or the other 7 people. But now wasn't the time to turn hostile, so she didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a magic talisman Lord Daoist Jinghe gave her from her Qinkuan bag, then swung her hand and flew out of the gap in the defensive barrier. This talisman contained the power of a sharp weapon. It flew out of the defensive barrier lightly and soundlessly transformed into a streak of sword light, piercing into the body of the water carp beast with a light but sharp edge. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the shuttle of flying Apsara broke out of the water carp beast's body. The water carp beast frantically swung its tail, but in the end, it couldn't hold on any longer. It let out a whimper and went limp. Blood flowed out of the water carp beast's body, dyeing the surrounding water red. The scene was extremely quiet. Everyone still hadn't regained their senses from this battle. Mo Tiange was the first to wave her hand. The shuttle of flying Apsara's golden rays emitted a clanging sound and flew back to her hand. The others finally woke up as if they had just woken up from a dream. Senior Martial Brother Xiang, Ai Xian and Xiahou Yuan shouted at the same time. The 2 of them were closest to Xiang Jiang, so they immediately rushed forward to support him. The blue defensive barrier above their heads cracked, and Xiang Jiang fell down. Ren Yufeng hastily went to check on Xiang Jiang's condition. Although none of the 10 of them died, the 2 middle-stage foundation building cultivators were half dead and almost lost their fighting strength. Taking advantage of this period of rest, Mo Tiange quietly asked Jiang Shanghang, "Senior Martial Brother Jiang, what's inside that secret area that made you guys willing to look for an outsider instead of revealing this matter to the group?" This time, Mo Tiange's tone wasn't distant, making Jiang Shanghang happy. He leaned closer and said, "Junior Martial Brother Yi, I once told you that there's a mysterious aura in this land of hiding dragon, right? But Senior Martial Brother Jiang, didn't you say that even the nascent soul seniors don't know what's going on?" "That's right, it's supposed to be like this." Jiang Shanghang hesitated for a moment before he said, "Every time we enter this land of hidden dragons, the scenery is completely different. However, there's only one place that's the same, the Divine Dragon Monument in the center. Now, no one can recognize the words on the Divine Dragon Monument. That mysterious aura is coming from the Divine Dragon Monument. For thousands of years, the disciples in the sect have been saying that this mysterious aura is the breath of the Divine Dragon." "Divine Dragon's breath?" Mo Tiange repeated. Although they couldn't be certain that it was the Divine Dragon's breath, based on the fact that these Xingfa sect disciples gave it this name, it was obvious that this mysterious breath was definitely unusual. In the end, none of us knows whether it's the Divine Dragon Monument or not. Jiang Shanghang sighed and said, "For so many years, the nascent soul grandmasters of Xingfa sect have never been able to completely understand this Divine Dragon Monument. They only know that the power contained in this monument is extraordinary and can't be offended. It's also because our Xingfa sect hasn't been around for a long time. Maybe after several tens of thousands of years, with the combined efforts of several generations of disciples, we'll be able to comprehend it. Xingfa sect was founded several thousand years ago, but in fact, it couldn't be considered a long time. A nascent soul cultivator's lifespan was about 1 or 2,000 years, so several thousand years was only enough for a few generations. Among the 7 great cultivation groups in the celestial pole, Xingfa sect was the only one that had been founded for several thousand years. All the other cultivation groups had been around for more than 10,000 years. What does this have to do with the secret place you guys discovered? Jiang Shanghang said, "It's precisely because we haven't been able to comprehend this divine dragon monument and because the nascent soul grandmasters are all busy cultivating that over time, disciples like us simply don't go to the divine dragon monument's location. Last time, the four of us entered this land of hidden dragons together and happened to go to the divine dragon monument, but we suddenly discovered something abnormal there." Jiang Shanghang paused for a moment. As he expected, he saw curiosity on Mo Tiange's face, so he continued to say, "There's nothing wrong with the divine dragon monument. What's wrong is that an entrance to an underground palace appeared next to the divine dragon monument." "An underground palace?" Mo Tiange asked. "An underground palace underwater?" "Correct." Jiang Shanghang continued to say, "When we came in, it was just after the 15th day of the 8th month, so we should be the first batch of disciples to see this underground palace. After we entered the underground palace, we sensed an aura that was exactly the same as the aura on the divine dragon monument, but it was much stronger." "What?" "Since it was called divine dragon's breath, it must be extremely vast and majestic. However, nascent soul cultivators were already helpless against the divine dragon monument, yet this unknown underground palace unexpectedly also had such a mysterious aura, and it was much stronger than before. How could foundation building cultivators like them possibly offend such an aura?" Mo Tiange's expression changed several times. In the end, she said, "Senior Martial Brother Jiang, regardless of whether this is divine dragon's breath or not, you said the power of this aura is extraordinary and can't be offended. What can we obtain by entering the underground palace?" Jiang Shanghang smiled bitterly. "This question. I really can't answer it because Senior Martial Brother Ren was the only one who found the time to go inside." "Then why did you still advise me like that?" Mo Tiange wrinkled her brows and suppressed the unhappiness in her heart. Jiang Shanghang solemnly guaranteed that the inside wasn't too dangerous and they could obtain treasures. As it turned out, even he himself wasn't sure. Jiang Shanghang sighed. It was Senior Martial Brother Ren who guaranteed that. At that time, as soon as we entered the underground palace, we were stopped by the water carp beast guarding the entrance. Senior Martial Brother Ren used a magic talisman to temporarily trap the water carp beast so the three of us could deal with it. He himself went inside to take a look. What did Senior Martial Brother Ren say in the end? Jiang Shanghang paused for a moment then said with some hesitation, Senior Martial Brother Ren said the layout inside was complicated. He only had time to take a few glances, and there seemed to be a pill concocting room. Although that was what he said, Jiang Shanghang himself wasn't too sure. A pill concocting room, since it was an underground palace, how could there possibly be a pill concocting room? Junior Martial Brother Yi. Jiang Shanghang stared at her and said frankly, I've already told you the truth, I'm only an ordinary cultivator in Jingfa sect. Senior Martial Brother Ren's cultivation level is higher than mine, and he's also a core formation martial uncle's inner disciple, so his status is much higher than mine. Last time, I was able to accompany him to this land of hiding dragon because I was familiar with Junior Martial Brother Tang Fong. Whatever he said, I naturally had no choice but to obey. However, he also had no reason to deceive us, right? What he said made sense. If there weren't any benefits, Ren Yufeng wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to find someone to take the risk with him. Mo Tiange thought for a moment then asked, Senior Martial Brother Jiang, since you can discover the underground palace, other people can too. There's bound to be people who happen to go to the Divine Dragon Monument. Can you guarantee that no one else saw it after you left? When this question was brought up, Jiang Shanghang smiled and said, You can rest assured. When we left last time, Senior Martial Brother Ren and Senior Martial Brother Xiang used a special technique to hide it, so other disciples in the same realm as us definitely couldn't see it. It's precisely because the scenery of this land of hiding dragon changes every year and we don't have a lot of time that we came here in a hurry. Just as they were talking, Ren Yufeng, who seemed to have finished treating Lu Rongxing and Xiang Jiang's injuries, walked towards them. Junior Marshal Sister Yi, Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, what are you talking about? Ren Yufeng's current expression was very amiable. It seemed like he was in a very good mood after smoothly killing the water carp beast. After spending half a day with him, Mo Tiange felt that not only did he have a bad temper and a high opinion of himself, but he also didn't have any leadership skills. He only relied on his status and cultivation level, so the things he did were indeed unpleasant. However, since he greeted her with a smile, there was no reason for her to slap him in the face. Therefore, she also smiled politely. I'm still a little unclear about this land of hiding dragon, so I was asking Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Oh, I see. In fact, Junior Marshal Sister Yi can just ask me. Junior Marshal Brother Jiang also doesn't know much. Ren Yufeng waved his hand, seeming to be very proud of himself. Upon hearing what he said, Jiang Shanghang helplessly glanced at her and said, Junior Marshal Sister Yi, you can chat with Senior Marshal Brother Ren. I'll go check on my 2 Senior Marshal brothers. Knowing Jiang Shanghang didn't want to and didn't dare to offend Ren Yufeng, Mo Tiange didn't ask him to stay. In any case, she wasn't afraid of Ren Yufeng. From what she saw just now, Ren Yufeng's water escaping technique was top-notch, but as for his means, he really didn't deserve to be called a late-stage foundation-building elite disciple of a big cultivation group. Even if Ren Yufeng didn't use any of his tricks, Mo Tiange was confident she wasn't inferior to him. If they fought, she had more than an 80% chance of winning. Once Jiang Shanghang left, Ren Yufeng said to Mo Tiange, Junior Marshal Sister Yi, the magic tool in your hand is unusual, and you also have several treasures on you. Presumably, you're an elite disciple, right? Junior Marshal Brother Jiang once said he was only a disciple of a small cultivation group on Kunwa Mountain, so how did Junior Marshal Sister Yi know him? He actually came to inquire about the relationship between the 2 of them. Mo Tiange smiled calmly. When I met Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, I wasn't a disciple of Xianqing school yet. Oh. Ren Yufeng said with astonishment, Junior Marshal Brother Jiang came to Jingfa sect more than 10 years ago. At that time, Junior Marshal Sister Yi actually wasn't a disciple of Xianqing school yet. Correct. After I parted ways with Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, he came to Jingfa sect, and I happened to go to Xianqing school. Ren Yufeng was even more astonished by Mo Tiange's acknowledgement. I heard Junior Marshal Brother Jiang said he only built his foundation after he came to Jingfa sect. Presumably, Junior Marshal Sister Yi also hadn't built her foundation back then. In more than 10 years, Junior Marshal Sister Yi advanced from the aura refining realm to the foundation building realm and then to the middle stage of the foundation building realm. This cultivation speed is really inconceivable. Junior Marshal Sister Yi, you're really a genius. Mo Tiange said faintly, I was just lucky and Master took pity on me, that's all. I don't deserve to be called a genius, I'll only dare to accept this title if I form my gold core one day. Although she was being modest, she still revealed her confidence in her gold core. Ren Yufeng's gaze towards her was suddenly filled with envy and jealousy. In the end, he squeezed out a smile and said, as soon as I saw Junior Marshal Sister Yi, I knew Junior Marshal Sister must be a talented and intelligent person. I never expected Junior Marshal Sister Yi would actually exceed my expectations. Just now, we killed that water carp beast thanks to Junior Marshal Sister Yi's magic tools and magic talismans. Since Junior Marshal Sister Yi has such treasures on you, presumably, your master must be extraordinary. May I know which master Daoist he is? Since Xianqing School and Jingfa sect were friendly groups, there was nothing she couldn't say about her master, so Mo Tiange immediately answered, my master's surname is Ma, and his Daoist name is Xianin. She made up a lie. First, Lord Daoist Jinghe reminded her that it was best to hide her name and origin when she was outside. Second, Lord Daoist Jinghe's reputation was too resounding, and Jingfa's sect was also a friendly group, so how could she hide her identity? She said it was Lord Daoist Xianin, but she was indeed taught by this martial uncle Xianin. Furthermore, Lord Daoist Xianin had just advanced to the nascent soul realm and had always been low-key, so a half-truth like this was much easier to cover than a pure lie. Ma Xianin. Ren Yufeng repeated the name, and the way he looked at her immediately changed. Could it be Lord Daoist Xianin? Yes. Mo Tiange smiled faintly, looking happy for her master. My master just advanced to the nascent soul realm a few years ago. I didn't expect senior martial brother Ren to have also heard of him. A few years ago, Lord Daoist Xuanin's nascent soul ceremony shook the entire celestial pole. Who doesn't know about him? Ren Yufeng's tone became a bit more polite. I never expected junior martial sister Yi to be Lord Daoist Xuanin's brilliant disciple. I've truly been disrespectful. Chapter 180. Upon learning that Mo Tiange was Lord Daoist Xuanin's disciple, Ren Yufeng's attitude immediately changed. Originally, although he didn't look down on Mo Tiange like Jiang Shanghang and the other disciples of his school, he only maintained a superficial respect for her. Now, however, his gaze was filled with respect. A nascent soul cultivator's disciple, even if it was only a nominal disciple, was several times more noble than a core formation cultivator's disciple. According to Ren Yufeng's conjecture, Mo Tiange was most likely still an official disciple. Because Lord Daoist Xianin hadn't formed his nascent soul for long, most of his disciples were definitely still in the foundation-building realm. However, based on the cultivation level and methods Mo Tiange displayed, she was definitely qualified to be an advanced inner disciple of a core formation cultivator. Ren Yufeng corrected his attitude in his heart, but at the same time, he was secretly jealous. Why did other people have this kind of luck to become a disciple of a core formation cultivator? Coincidentally, Master actually formed his nascent soul, so he had to painstakingly plan everything himself. However, no matter how jealous he was, he still had to put on a polite attitude. Fortunately, Mo Tiange wasn't an arrogant person, so he didn't feel too uncomfortable. The two chatted for a while, and Lu Rongsheng and Xiang Jiyang's injuries were finally treated. Senior martial brother Ren. The person who called out to them was an early-stage foundation-building cultivator named Tang Fang. He seemed to be the youngest among the 9 people from Jingfa's sect. He cast a somewhat timid glance at Mo Tiange, then said to Ren Yufeng, Senior martial brother Lu and senior martial brother Xiang's injuries have already stabilized. Should we leave now? Oh. Ren Yufeng looked around. Sure enough, Lu Rongsheng and Xiang Jiyang both stood up. Although their faces were still deathly pale, their expressions were already at ease. The 5th-rank water carp beast's carcass was also dealt with. Then let's continue. Ren Yufeng then turned towards Mo Tiange and said, Junior martial sister Yi, you don't mind if we divide the demonic beast's carcass after we leave the land of hiding dragon, right? I don't mind. The group of 10 people once again met up. With Ren Yufeng leading the way, they continued their journey. Mo Tiange silently followed the group, but she had a bad premonition in her heart. Both Lu Rongsheng and Xiang Jiyang seemed to be seriously injured. Even if they suppressed their injuries, it was likely that they would not be able to exert much power. Ren Yufeng was too arrogant, Tang Fang and Yu Shaoran were too inexperienced, the 2 female cultivators, Ai Xian and Xia Hoyuan, didn't seem to have any opinions of their own. There was also a male cultivator named Xiu Jiming, but she still couldn't tell what he was thinking at the moment. Jiang Shanghang, on the other hand, was someone she was familiar with. Whether it was his methods or his wisdom, he wasn't weak. For this team to enter a place guarded by a rank 5 demonic beast was truly not a good thing. She really didn't believe what Ren Yufeng said about only having a 7th-rank demonic beast guarding the door. How could a place with a so-called divine dragon's breath be simple? During the silence, Ren Yufeng took the lead and stopped. He turned around and said, "Junior martial brothers and sisters, we've arrived at the Divine Dragon Monument. Prepare to remove the restrictions." "We've arrived." Mo Tiange was puzzled. Didn't the Divine Dragon Monument have the breath of the Divine Dragon? Why didn't she feel it at all? Looking up, the surrounding scenery was no different from other places. It was still dark blue seawater and corals everywhere. "Junior martial sister Yi," Ren Yufeng called out, "there's a restriction around the Divine Dragon Monument. We have to remove it first before we can go in. Junior martial brother Xiang and junior martial brother Lu are both injured, and the cultivation levels of the others aren't high enough. Can you lend me a hand?" Mo Tiange muttered to herself for a moment then nodded. "All right." Aside from her, there were no other middle-stage foundation building cultivators present. After obtaining her permission, Ren Yufeng pointed at the area next to him and said, "This restriction was placed by a nascent-souled senior in our school. I have a method to remove it temporarily, but it consumes too much spiritual aura, so we need to lay a spirit-gathering formation first. However, a temporary spirit-gathering formation can't accommodate so many people at the same time. Right now, aside from me, junior martial sister Ye's cultivation level is the highest, so I'll have to ask junior martial sister Ye to stand together with me in this spirit-gathering formation. When the time comes, you only need to transmit your spiritual aura to me." Mo Tiange did as she was told, and Ren Yufeng immediately laid a simple spirit-gathering formation around the two of them. Mo Tiange looked at it. This spirit-gathering formation wasn't ordinary. It seemed to be the work of a core formation cultivator. This Ren Yufeng was quite rich, but why didn't he have any effective methods when he was fighting the water carp beast? She didn't have much time to think. After the spirit-gathering formation was laid, Ren Yufeng started to cast an art. He took out a jade slip then wiped his finger, forcing a drop of blood essence to drip onto the jade slip. A ray of light shone from the jade slip. In an instant, the spirit-gathering formation shone brightly and spiritual aura crazily gathered. "Junior martial sister Yi, lend me a hand," Ren Yufeng shouted. Mo Tiange didn't say a word. She just put her palms together, gathered spiritual aura, pressed it against the middle of Ren Yufeng's back, then transferred her spiritual aura into his meridians. The light from the jade slip became brighter and brighter until it finally condensed into a spiritual light. In a split second, Mo Tiange felt all the spiritual aura in her body madly rushing towards Ren Yufeng's body. To be exact, she wasn't transferring spiritual aura into Ren Yufeng's body. Rather, Ren Yufeng was absorbing her spiritual aura. That jade slip absorbed both Ren Yufeng's and her spiritual aura, but it still greedily absorbed the spiritual aura from the spirit-gathering formation. Mo Tiange had no choice but to take out a restorative panacea and stuff it into her mouth. However, the little bit of spiritual aura she received was still quickly absorbed by the jade slip. Mo Tiange's expression couldn't help but change. What kind of restriction was this? She already had the token, but it still needed so much spiritual aura. Wasn't this too overbearing? Fortunately, just as her spiritual aura was about to be completely absorbed, the jade slip stopped absorbing spiritual aura. Ren Yufeng shouted loudly. The jade slip once again burst with light, submerging several people together. Mo Tiange only felt as if something had been opened. Soon afterward, a powerful force rushed into her body, violently rushing into her meridians. In an instant, she felt a great pain. From her meridians to her internal organs, everything was crushed by that force. She almost lost consciousness. Junior martial sister Yi, junior martial sister Yi. In her daze, she heard someone calling her name. This was Jiang Shanghang's voice. Jiang Shanghang said to Ren Yufeng with a bit of anger, "Senior martial brother Ren, do you want to kill junior martial sister Yi?" This restriction will backfire, but you actually let Junior Marshal Sister Yi bear this force alone. After a while, Ren Yufeng's voice rang out, sounding a bit annoyed. It's me who never expected Junior Marshal Sister Ye's cultivation level to be so profound. The spiritual aura she transferred to me surpassed my own, so that power naturally went to her. I didn't have time to. Then came Ai Xian's overbearing voice. Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, what do you mean? Do you think Senior Marshal Brother Ren would deliberately let your Junior Marshal Sister Yi get injured? By the time she finished speaking, her tone was already filled with contempt. Jiang Shanghang said angrily, Senior Marshal Sister Ai. I was the one who called Junior Marshal Sister Yi here. I naturally have to guarantee her safety. Then why are you yelling at Senior Marshal Brother Ren? Ai Xian didn't give in at all. Don't forget your identity. You're just an ordinary disciple, and Senior Marshal Brother Ren is an elite disciple. You actually dared to talk to him like that? Jiang Shanghang didn't answer, but Mo Tiange could feel his hand, which was holding her, trembling. Even if she was dissatisfied with Jiang Shanghang, at this moment, she no longer had any anger. With Jiang Shanghang's status in Jingfa sect, he didn't dare to offend Ren Yufeng, but he was willing to protect her at this time. This was already very rare. How could Ren Yufeng not know? Mo Tiange sneered inwardly. Although she was on guard against this person, she didn't expect that he would scheme against her before they even entered the underground palace. Apparently, she still wasn't careful enough. Ren Yufeng actually dared to scheme against her like this after learning she was Lord Daoist Xuaning's disciple. However, presumably, Ren Yufeng also didn't know that her meridians were different from ordinary people's, right? This kind of backlash that could seriously injure ordinary cultivators wasn't too serious for her. As long as she recuperated for a while, she would be able to recover 80% of her strength. At that time, she just needed to take a green amplifying pill and adjust her breath. Someone opened her mouth and stuffed a medicinal pill into it. Soon afterward, she heard Jiang Shanghang's voice transmission, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, I didn't protect you well enough. If you're still conscious, quickly recuperate and I'll take you out safely. Upon hearing what he said, Mo Tiange swallowed the medicinal pill then silently circulated her breath. She didn't know what medicinal pill Jiang Shanghang gave her, but once it entered her stomach, a gust of ice-cold spiritual aura spread and immediately alleviated her pain. Junior Marshal Brother Jiang. Ren Yufeng's voice was no longer annoyed. It seems your relationship with this Junior Marshal Sister Yi isn't ordinary. Jiang Shanghang said coldly, Junior Marshal Sister Yi and I had a life-and-death friendship, our relationship naturally isn't ordinary. In other words, you're very dissatisfied with me now. I don't dare. Although he said he didn't dare, Jiang Shanghang's voice wasn't as soft as before. Senior Marshal Brother Ren naturally doesn't need to explain things to ordinary disciples like me. It's good that you know. Ai Xian interrupted. If it weren't for Senior Marshal Brother Ren, we wouldn't have been able to enter this place at all, let alone look for treasures. You wouldn't be stupid enough to fall out with us for your Junior Marshal Sister Yi, right? Of course not. Jiang Shanghang slowly exhaled. I'm a disciple of Jingfa sect after all, so Senior Marshal Brothers and Sisters' statuses are above mine. Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, you've always been reasonable, you didn't disappoint me. Ren Yufeng was unprecedentedly kind. We're all disciples of the same sect, so why should we lose our harmony for others? Since Junior Marshal Sister Yi was unfortunately seriously injured, we can't do anything about it. Treasure hunting is more important, so let's go into the underground palace first and take Junior Marshal Sister Yi with us when we come out. Senior Marshal Brother Ren. Jiang Shanghang said, this place isn't that safe. If we leave Junior Marshal Sister Yi here by herself, what if she's in danger? There's also danger when we look for treasures. Although the current Ren Yufeng wasn't as arrogant as before, his slippery tone made people feel even more uncomfortable. If Junior Marshal Sister Yi really is that unfortunate, we can only be afraid that she's unlucky. Jiang Shanghang was silent for a long time. Ren Yufeng then said leisurely, "Of course, if Junior Marshal Brother Jiang wants to accompany Junior Marshal Sister Yi, I can't do anything about it. How about this, we won't close the entrance to the underground palace. You two can come in after Junior Marshal Sister Yi wakes up. What do you think?" His words sounded pleasant, but only he knew what the situation inside the underground palace was like. So many people were gathered here to look for treasures, but the two of them were left here. Once they entered the underground palace, what were their chances of survival? Mo Tiange sneered inwardly. This Ren Yufeng was really shameless, he even plotted against her. When her injuries were healed, she definitely had to get even with him. Jiang Shanghang remained silent, but Mo Tiange could imagine the struggle in his heart. He longed to become stronger, longed to make a realm breakthrough, and treasure hunting was very important to him. He was really unwilling to give it up. In fact, even if Jiang Shanghang didn't stay, Mo Tiange wouldn't be worried. Her injuries weren't serious, so she could get up at any time. However, she still hoped Jiang Shanghang would stay. Chapter 181. This world was very cruel. Mo Tiange had never been naive enough to hope that there would be kind-hearted people everywhere who would help her. Jiang Shanghang wasn't a good person, but 17 years ago, he helped her and saved her from falling into that miserable situation. Just like he said, they were once friends who had gone through life and death together. She still hoped that such a person would be the same Jiang Shanghang from back then, and not just act for his own benefit. Silence. Jiang Shanghang didn't say anything, and neither did the others. The current situation was very obvious. Jiang Shanghang had to make a choice, to abandon Mo Tiange or to save her. No one spoke for a long time. Mo Tiange didn't know how much time had passed when she finally heard a rather timid voice. "Senior Marshal Brother Ren, this isn't good, right?" Judging from the voice, it was Tang Fong. This still very immature youth summoned up his courage and said, "In the end, Junior Marshal Sister Yi is a disciple of a friendly sect. We, Junior Brother Tang." When Ren Yufeng spoke to Tang Fong, his tone was completely different. She didn't know what Tang Fong's identity was, but Ren Yufeng, a person who thought highly of himself, was actually being so polite to him and even seemed to be trying to curry favor with him. "You're inexperienced, so you don't understand the relationship here. We're indeed friends with Xianqing School, but we can't care about that now that we're in a critical situation. During the demonic beast riot more than 10 years ago, although our 7 great cultivation groups were on friendly terms in Kunwu, there were still conflicts and even mutual robberies. What was all this for? Benefits. Benefits were the most important. Besides, we didn't do anything to Junior Marshal Sister Yi. It's just that it's inconvenient to bring her along, Junior Marshal Brother Tang, think about it. Junior Marshal Sister Yi is currently half dead. If we bring her along, how are we supposed to search for treasures?" This. Tang Fong didn't know what to say. Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, Ren Yufeng spoke again. This time, there was a threatening tone in his words. "You have to make a decision quickly. If you're late, we won't be able to wait." Before long, Mo Tiange felt Jiang Shanghang's hand finally calm down. He said faintly, "Senior Marshal Brother Ren, I'd better stay here and look after Junior Marshal Sister Yi. I brought her here, so I naturally have to take her back safely." "Humph." Ren Yufeng let out a cold humph. "All right, then we don't need to say anything more. Junior brothers and sisters, let's go." Afterward, she sensed spiritual aura fluctuations. Presumably, they were opening the entrance to the underground palace. Soon after, she heard footsteps moving further and further away. Aside from Mo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang, there was no one else at the scene. Jiang Shanghang dejectedly sat down and held his head. Mo Tiange opened her eyes and slowly sat up. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang Shanghang abruptly raised his head. He was startled. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, my injuries aren't that serious. She smiled and then put on a serious expression. This matter. Thank you, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Jiang Shanghang naturally knew what she was thanking him for. At this moment, he was surprised and happy, but he also felt dispirited and regretful. His heart was filled with a myriad of complicated feelings. In the end, he just forced a smile and said, Junior Marshal Brother Yi, I'm sorry. I promised you so much, but in the end, this has nothing to do with Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. I'm very touched that Senior Marshal Brother Jiang gave up the opportunity to enter the underground palace with them for me. However, doesn't Senior Brother Jiang regret it? Jiang Shanghang smiled bitterly. I regret it a little. But between Junior Marshal Brother Yi and that Senior Marshal Brother Ren, I still believe Junior Marshal Brother Yi a bit. That Senior Marshal Brother Ren usually treats his fellow disciples very harshly, but now that he plotted against Junior Marshal Brother Yi, I think with his personality, he definitely won't give me many things when the time comes, so it'd be better if I didn't enter. Maybe Junior Marshal Brother Yi will give me some treasures to thank me. What he said was true, but it was also a way to seek joy in the midst of suffering. Mo Tiange was now no longer angry with Jiang Shanghang, so she smiled and said, why not? Jiang Shanghang turned to look at her. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, do you really want to give me a treasure? Mo Tiange smiled mysteriously. Ren Yufeng plotted against me, so I'm afraid there's something good inside. Since he's heartless, I'll also be unjust, let's go rob him. She spoke casually, but Jiang Shanghang was hesitant. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, I know you're different from before, but Senior Marshal Brother Ren and the others are also weak, and they have a lot of people. We won't be able to defeat them if we fight. Besides, I'm a disciple of Jingfa sect, so going against them is indeed a bit. Mo Tiange raised her eyebrows. What's there to be afraid of? If we can't do it in the open, we'll do it in the dark. Your two Senior Marshal brothers are injured, so there's nothing to worry about. Aside from that Ren Yufeng, who I don't know what tricks he has, I don't think the others are difficult to deal with. If Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, you're afraid of being blamed by the group when you go back, we'll just kill them all. At that time, we'll do whatever you say. Jiang Shanghang was gobsmacked. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. We'll talk about the others later, but I must kill Ren Yufeng. If I hadn't been careful and wasn't seriously injured, I would have been half dead because of his scheme just now. He even wanted to leave me here to fend for myself, humph. As she spoke, Mo Tiange looked at Jiang Shanghang. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, in the past, you were also a decisive person when it came to killing. Why are you so hesitant today? Jiang Shanghang was stunned and fell silent. That's right. When he was in Yunwu's sect, he was pushed aside by everyone, so his personality wasn't like this. When Jiang Qingxian bullied him, he endured it, but now that he had the opportunity, he killed Jiang Qingxian without the slightest hesitation and fled Mount Yunwu. However, when he arrived in the northernmost region, he became an immortal master of a tribe and was worshipped by all the mortals in the tribe. He also became an official disciple of one of the Celestial Pole's 7 great cultivation groups and was no longer bullied as he had been before. Thus, he began to carefully protect the people in front of him. Ren Yufeng was arrogant, but he accepted it. Ren Yufeng was arrogant, but he also tolerated it. Unlike when he was in Yunwu's sect, where it was practically impossible for him to survive, he no longer had the decisiveness he once had. He was more open-minded and broad-minded than before, but he had also lost his former sharpness. Thinking up to this point, Jiang Shanghang slowly exhaled. He then said sincerely, "Thank you for the reminder, Junior Martial Brother Yi." It wasn't too late for him to know now. He had to constantly adjust the direction he was advancing in. In the past, he had been trapped by hatred. Now, he had walked out of it. Now, he had lost his resolve. In the future, he would remind himself. "Alright, Junior Martial Brother Yi, I don't care if you want to kill Senior Martial Brother Ren. However, I hope you can let Junior Martial Brother Tang Fong go. I have a good relationship with him, and his temperament is also very simple. He's not a bad person." Just now, Tang Fong even interceded on her behalf, so Mo Tiange remembered his kindness. She immediately nodded and said, "I only want to kill Ren Yufeng. It'll be fine as long as the others don't provoke me." Jiang Shanghang finally felt relieved. A hint of a smile finally appeared on his face. "That's good. Junior Martial Brother Yi, we're bound together now, and I still want to stay in Jingfa sect. If you only want to kill Senior Martial Brother Ren, I'll naturally have a way to escape punishment. However, the others are my fellow disciples after all." "I understand. Senior Martial Brother Jiang was willing to stay just now, so I'll remember this kindness. I naturally won't make things difficult for Senior Martial Brother Jiang." Once she finished speaking, Mo Tiange stood up and scanned her surroundings. There was now a transporting formation at the place where they activated the restriction just now. Mo Tiange muttered to herself for a moment, then asked, "Senior Martial Brother Jiang, if we need to activate the restriction to enter the Divine Dragon Monument, how did they lure that water carp beast out just now?" Jiang Shanghang said, "This was actually that water carp beast's special ability. I don't know if it mutated or if it obtained some fated chance, but it unexpectedly ignored the restriction laid by our nascent soul seniors. Fortunately, it couldn't penetrate the special terrain of this land of hiding dragon, so we were able to escape. When we left last time, Senior Martial Brother Ren tore off its scales. He probably used those scales to lure it out." Oh. Mo Tiange's heart was moved. Demonic beasts didn't have magic weapons, so its special ability might be attached to its body. That being the case, could the carcass of that water carp beast be made into a magic weapon that could pass through restrictions? Junior Martial Brother Yi. Jiang Shanghang was somewhat hesitant as he stared at the restriction. "I'm guessing it must be quite dangerous inside. Do we really want to go in?" "Of course we want to go in. Why wouldn't we?" Mo Tiange, who originally didn't have much interest in this so-called underground palace in the land of hiding dragon, was now very determined. For no other reason than Ren Yufeng plotted against her like this, she had to get revenge. "All right." Jiang Shanghang nodded and made up his mind. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If we want fated chances, we have to take risks. Back then, when he was still in Yunhui sect, he didn't care about this kind of thing at all. In recent years, his smooth life had really worn away his drive. Junior Martial Brother Yi. Before entering the transporting formation, Jiang Shanghang asked, "Are your injuries really okay?" "Of course. This is all thanks to Senior Martial Brother Jiang's medicinal pills. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have recovered so quickly." The medicinal pills Jiang Shanghang gave her were even more effective than green amplifying pills. Green amplifying pills were Danding School's Yu Clan's heirloom medicinal pills. When she was still in Yu Clan, Clan Master Yu gave her a whole bottle to thank her. In Mo Tiange's eyes, green amplifying pills were already excellent healing medicinal pills for people before they reached the nascent soul realm. However, the medicinal pills Jiang Shanghang gave her were even more effective than green amplifying pills. She just didn't know what kind of spiritual pill it was. Jiang Shanghang didn't say anything, and Mo Tiange also didn't ask. the two of them stepped into the transporting formation. With a flash of light, they entered another place. As soon as they entered, Mo Tiange was immediately shocked. This aura, she was surrounded by dusky seawater, which was completely different from the dark blue outside. It was gloomy, depressing, and desolate. She was surrounded by an aura that was majestic and sacred, vast and silent, as if it came from ancient times, carrying the loneliness and vastness of eternity. Inside this aura, Mo Tiange felt as if she had returned to ancient times, when wind and clouds gathered, spiritual beasts gathered, and cultivators roamed freely, that distant era, that ancient aura, that kind of sacred coercion. Divine Dragon's Breath. No wonder it was called Divine Dragon's Breath. Mo Tiange couldn't imagine any other name more appropriate than Divine Dragon's Breath. She raised her head and saw a tall stone tablet standing in the middle of the open space. A vivid divine dragon was painted in the center of the tablet, and numerous characters were engraved all around it. The engravings were still clear, but the dark color on the surface showed that it had experienced a very long time. This was the divine dragon tablet that had been passed down for several thousand years in Jinfa sect. Mo Tiange walked forward. She couldn't help but want to touch it. Junior Martial Brother Yi, don't. The moment her palm touched the divine dragon tablet, the divine dragon's breath surged, gathered together, and suddenly bounced back. Ah! Mo Tiange felt pain in her palm. In an instant, her whole body was thrown out, and she didn't have the slightest ability to resist. Junior Martial Brother Yi. Jiang Shanghang hastily ran over to help her up. This divine dragon tablet can't be moved. If it's not moved, it won't hurt anyone. Mo Tiange stood up and looked at her palm. There weren't any marks on it, but the pain from just now was still there. She was inwardly frightened. This divine dragon's breath was so powerful that she couldn't resist at all, but it didn't hurt her at all. I'm not alone, so the efficiency is very low. I'll continue after I wake up. Chapter 182. Foundation building cultivators were considered good cultivators in the current cultivation world, but in ancient times, when great cultivators roamed freely, they were no different from ants. Mo Tiange stared at the divine dragon monument in front of her. For the first time, she felt she was so small that she was nothing more than a drop of water in this vast ocean. The ocean was so vast that she would disappear in the water with just a wave. This was the spiritual aura pressure of an ancient divine beast, although it was only a little bit of its aura. Not to mention foundation building cultivators, even nascent soul cultivators couldn't resist this kind of spiritual aura pressure. Junior Martial Brother Yi. Upon hearing Jiang Shanghang's voice, Mo Tiange regained her composure and said with a sigh, no wonder it's called the divine dragon's breath. It's so powerful, Jiang Shanghang said. If Junior Martial Brother Yi enters the underground palace, you'll find that the divine dragon's breath inside is even more powerful. An even more powerful divine dragon's breath. Mo Tiange muttered. An even more powerful divine dragon's breath proved that the underground palace wasn't an ordinary place, it might even be extremely dangerous. What kind of treasure could make Ren Yufeng plot against her before even entering? Forget it. I won't think about it anymore. Let's go inside first. Mo Tiange looked around, then asked Jiang Shanghang, Senior Martial Brother Jiang, where's the entrance to the underground palace? Jiang Shanghang led her around the divine dragon monument and saw a dark hole on the flat ground. If one didn't pay attention, they might think it was a hole dug by some undersea fish and shrimp. Here. Jiang Shanghang said, this hole definitely wasn't opened with a real technique. Maybe it was attracted by the same divine dragon's breath here, so it was exposed. Many secret places were hidden and unknown in the beginning, but nothing could resist the passage of time. Slowly, the original power would fade away, and this underground palace was probably the same. The two of them checked their belongings. Once they were ready, Jiang Shanghang walked in front and they slowly sank into the entrance of the underground palace. The dark space and narrow stone passage were no different from the underground palace on land. As soon as they entered the underground palace, their minds went blank for a moment because the aura of the divine dragon was even denser. This kind of sacred and boundless aura, which carried with it an ancient pressure, caused little cultivators like them to tremble with fear. After silently adjusting her breath for a while, Mo Tiange finally calmed down. Even under the effect of the soul-refining art, she still felt deeply awed. Jiang Shanghang had the same expression on his face. He said softly, "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, be careful. This path isn't the correct entrance. There might be a trap." Mo Tiange asked, "Where did you go last time?" "Last time, apart from Senior Marshal Brother Ren, we only made it this far." As they spoke, they passed through the long stone path and entered a stone room. This stone chamber was extremely high, deep, and vast. There was no longer any light from the entrance, and they could not see the end of it with only a few moonstones. There was nothing else in the stone room. It did not look like a hall, nor did it look like a hole. It seemed to be just a slightly wider stone path. Turns out that water carp beast lived here. "I wonder how many years it's been here," Jiang Shanghang said as he slowly swam to the four walls to examine them. Mo Tiange said, "Based on the appearance of this stone room, it's at least 10,000 years old. That water carp beast was only in the 5th rank. No matter how long it lived, it couldn't have lived for more than 10,000 years, right?" Jiang Shanghang was startled, but he soon nodded. "That's right. Could it be that the water carp beast isn't from the underground palace?" "It's possible. Didn't you say it completely disregarded the restrictions around the divine dragon monument?" The two of them glanced at each other and were silent again. If the water carp beast wasn't the spiritual beast guarding this underground palace, then this underground palace either didn't have any spiritual beast guarding it, or it was much more dangerous than the water carp beast. If it was the former, it would be easy to deal with. They only needed to keep moving forward and kill Ren Yufeng. But if it was the latter, it wasn't a place foundation building cultivators like them could barge into. They would instead lose their lives for nothing. The two of them pondered for a while. Jiang Shanghang was the first one who couldn't help but ask, "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, what do you think about this matter?" Mo Tiange muttered to herself and said slowly, "In fact, there's nothing to be afraid of. The 8 of them are walking in the front. If there's any danger, we can just retreat quickly. Wouldn't that be fine?" In fact, what she was thinking was that they wouldn't have no time to enter the virtual sky world, right? Jiang Shanghang's cultivation level was lower than hers, so she had several ways to knock him out in an instant then bring him into the virtual sky world. Jiang Shanghang hesitated for a moment but eventually nodded. "You're right. Then should we follow them? And we'll walk for a while first. If we're sure there's no danger, we'll go somewhere else." Jiang Shanghang nodded in agreement. The two of them set off again. This indeed wasn't a stone room, it was a spacious stone path. This stone path was very long. They walked slowly for a long time, but they still hadn't reached the end. Fortunately, there were traces left by the 8 people ahead of them along the way. They didn't dare to use their fleeing technique. First, they were afraid they'd be discovered by the other 8 people. Second, they were worried there might be some dangers along the way. Judging from the traces along the way, the 8 people ahead of them also went through several battles, but their opponents weren't demonic beasts. Instead, they seemed to have encountered some traps and the path had collapsed. Fortunately, with these people leading the way, Mo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang didn't encounter any danger along the way. After walking in silence for a while, they finally entered a large hall. The tall, heavy stone door was half open. There were dragon patterns engraved on it that looked like the divine dragon monument. After stepping through the door, they saw towering stone pillars supporting the entire hall. The floor was covered with neat stone slabs, all of which were painted with the same shape of a dragon. As they slowly walked inside, a towering stone statue gradually appeared in the darkness. Antlers, bull's horns, camel's head, rabbit's eyes, snake's neck, sea serpent's belly, fish's scales, and eagle's claws. Its imposing manner was vast, as if it could reach the sky. Divine Dragon Statue. There was actually a divine dragon statue enshrined in this hall. Mo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang glanced at each other. Both of them were speechless. The imposing manner of this divine dragon statue was even stronger than the divine dragon monument. This kind of spiritual aura pressure almost made them speechless. Mo Tiange took a deep breath and said, "This isn't an ordinary place." Jiang Shanghang nodded with a pale face. The two of them retreated almost to the door before the spiritual aura pressure lessened. After a moment of silence, Mo Tiange suddenly said, "Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, in your opinion, what kind of place is this?" Jiang Shanghang turned to look at her, puzzled. "Junior Marshal Brother Yi, what do you mean?" Mo Tiange turned sideways and pointed at the shallow carvings on the back of the stone door. "Look, what's carved here?" Filled with doubts, Jiang Shanghang walked closer to take a closer look. This is just a very ordinary mural. If it's a relic from tens of thousands of years ago, it wouldn't be strange to have these things. Yes, but take a look. What's carved on it? Jiang Shanghang turned to take a look. After a while, he was shocked. This is a sacrificial scene from millions of years ago, Mo Tiange said faintly. This might be a sacrificial temple from ancient times. According to legend, sacrificial temples in ancient times were built to look like palaces. Although this underground palace was crude, it was indeed a magnificent palace upon closer inspection. The wide stone path might be the passage leading to the real temple. These stone walls were engraved with murals, but there were very few words on them. Because writing had just been invented in that era, people were used to recording events with murals. On this mural, there was a tall altar with several priests standing on it. They were all wearing white robes, and below them were kneeling men and women. They were all wrapped in plain animal skins. Only ancient humans would wear animal skins. Millions of years. Jiang Shanghang's complexion was slightly pale. In the end, he asked, could a relic from millions of years ago exist until now? Why would it be in the sea? Mo Tiange smiled and said, "Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, there's an old saying, white clouds turn into gray dogs, the blue sea turns into mulberry fields." After millions of years, the blue sea of the past has already turned into mulberry fields. The former sacrificial temple might have also been buried in the sea. Maybe it's because it sank into the sea that no one visited it for millions of years, allowing it to be preserved until now. As they stroked the rough stone wall and silently felt this distant time, the two of them were speechless for a while. Millions of years. Then there's no treasure left in this underground palace. Jiang Shanghang murmured. Disappointment flashed across his eyes. After millions of years, any magic weapon would lose its effect. Don't think magic weapons and medicinal pills could really be preserved forever. That was simply impossible. Correct. Mo Tiange wasn't disappointed. She originally didn't go for the treasure. After thinking for a while, she frowned and said, "No, there's a treasure here." Jiang Shanghang raised his head, puzzled. What? Mo Tiange looked at him with a smile. Ren Yufeng went through untold hardships to come here and even schemed to harm me. How could there be no benefits? If this was the sacrificial temple from millions of years ago, it indeed wouldn't have any magic weapons or spiritual pills, but it has divine dragon's breath. divine dragon's breath that's even stronger than the divine dragon monument. Upon hearing what she said, Jiang Shanghang's complexion gradually turned pale. Divine dragon's breath. Does he want to die? How could insignificant foundation-building cultivators like them covet such a formidable power? Not to mention them, even nascent soul cultivators wouldn't dare to covet this kind of mysterious power that came from ancient times. After all, absorbing power that one couldn't control would result in one's body exploding and one's death. Maybe he has some kind of secret technique. Mo Tiange frowned and pondered. It's impossible for Ren Yufeng not to know what we already know. He plotted all these things and showed this attitude, which means his ambition isn't small. Aside from divine dragon's breath, what else can satisfy his requirements? Jiang Shanghang didn't say anything else. This matter had already surpassed his imagination. He never thought Ren Yufeng would have this kind of idea, and he also didn't know what to do next. He naturally came to this underground palace to look for treasures, but not only were there no treasures in front of him, but there might even be a calamity. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, Jiang Shanghang said after a long silence, since there aren't any treasures, should we go back? Mo Tiange also became hesitant when she heard this. She wanted to kill Ren Yufeng, but she didn't want to lose her life. Who knew what method Ren Yufeng would use? If he succeeded and possessed divine dragon's breath, his cultivation level would definitely increase greatly. At that time, whether she could defeat him or not would be a problem. If he didn't succeed and his body exploded, would his method have any other effects? What if he implicated her? The two of them looked at each other and pondered for a long time, but neither of them could come to a decision. Chapter 183. While the two of them were still thinking about their escape route, they heard a loud rumble coming from inside. Then there was a strong spiritual aura fluctuation. Mo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang glanced at each other. Such a violent spiritual aura fluctuation, what happened? In the next moment, the aura filling the divine dragon palace suddenly became turbulent and surged towards the back as if it had a mind of its own. At first, this phenomenon was slow. They only felt the divine dragon's breath slowly flowing towards the divine dragon statue, but later, it became faster and faster as if something was sucking it away. The two of them became more and more surprised. They were sure something had happened, but they didn't know what to do. At the end of this stone passage was the main hall worshipping the divine dragon. There was no other way. Something must have happened behind the divine dragon palace. However, the pressure from the divine dragon's breath was too great in this underground palace. They couldn't spread their divine sense at all, so they could only go to the end of the hall to see what was going on. But with such a strange phenomenon in front of them, they didn't know whether they would be in danger if they went there themselves. They didn't have time to think too much. Suddenly, they heard a heavy noise coming from the depths of the hall, as if a stone door had been knocked open. Then they heard chaotic footsteps mixed with urgent shouts. "Quick! Let's go!" This voice, the two of them turned around and bumped into several people who were running out in a hurry. Junior Marshal Brother Tang. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Jiang Shanghang and Tang Fong looked at each other in a daze. Soon after, Tang Fong ran over, pulled Jiang Shanghang's hand and ran outside. "Senior Marshal Brother Jiang, let's go." Mo Tiange swept her gaze over them. There were only 4 Jingfa sect cultivators running out from behind the divine dragon palace: Tang Fong, Yu Shaoran, Qiu Jiming, and Xiahou Yuan. The 4 of them looked flustered and pale, and Yu Shaoran was even injured. The other 4 people were nowhere to be seen. As soon as they came out, Tang Fong pulled Jiang Shanghang and ran with all his might. Mo Tiange could only run with him. Jingfa sect cultivators were very fast when using the water escaping technique. Even with the cloud treading boots, Mo Tiange still found it difficult to keep up. Junior Marshal Brother Tang, what's wrong? Where are Senior Marshal Brother Ren and the others? Why are we running? What happened? Jiang Shanghang asked as he ran. Tang Fong gasped for breath. Senior Brother Ren. Senior Brother Ren, he. Before Tang Fong finished speaking, Qiu Jiming shouted angrily, "You're still calling him Senior Apprentice Brother Ren. He's clearly plotting against us from the beginning to the end." Jiang Shanghang was startled. What? Senior Brother Ren also. Qiu Jiming supported the injured Yu Xiaoran and pointed at the wound on Yu Xiaoran's chest. This was done by Senior Brother Ren. There are no treasures here at all. He used us to enter this underground palace, inherited the divine dragon's breath, and then killed us. What? Jiang Shanghang was astonished. Although he had already guessed this, he thought the possibility was zero. She never expected Ren Yufeng to really think this way. Does he want to die? Even our nascent soul grandmasters don't dare to offend that divine dragon breath, but he. The one who interrupted was Xiahou Yuan. She was also very angry. Actually, he obtained a secret technique from here last time. He can use the aura of an ancient divine beast to modify his body so that he has the inheritance of a divine beast. After obtaining this secret technique, he prepared himself well and used us to enter this underground palace. Now that he's done, he still wants to kill us. Mo Tiange wasn't surprised to hear what Xiahou Yuan said. Just now, she and Jiang Shanghang discussed this matter. Ren Yufeng must have had some kind of secret technique, which was why he wanted to obtain the divine dragon's breath. What Xiahou Yuan said just verified this theory. Then what about Senior Marshal Brother Lu and the others? Tang Fong looked sad. Senior Marshal Brother Lu and Senior Marshal Brother Xiang used up all their spiritual aura and were injured by the water carp beast when they were in charge of the formation. They couldn't run away, so they were killed by Senior Marshal Brother Ren right away. Senior Marshal Sister Ai was also. Senior Marshal Sister Ai was always close to Senior Marshal Brother Ren, but I never thought he'd also kill Senior Marshal Sister Ai. What about now? Upon hearing what they said, Jiang Shanghang nervously turned to look behind him. Ren Yufeng didn't chase after them. Senior Marshal Brother Ren's already in the late stage of the foundation building realm, and he still has more than 100 years left in his lifespan. He obviously has a chance to advance to the core formation realm, so why did he do this kind of thing? Who knows? Qiu Jiming said coldly, I found it strange from the beginning. Why didn't he look for late-stage foundation building cultivators he had a good relationship with and instead looked for us? I originally thought he just wanted to take advantage of us, but I never expected he actually had this idea. The difference between the late stage of the foundation building realm and the early stage of the foundation building realm was quite big. During the demonic beast riot that year, there was friction between disciples of Xianqing School and Gujin sect at Qianmen Ridge in Mount Tianhua. Because of Guangzhou, a late-stage foundation building cultivator, those Gujin sect disciples didn't dare to act rashly. Later, it was because one Hongan, who harbored malicious intentions, instigated them to prepare a sword formation that they finally fought. However, once Guangzhou made his move, he dealt with the heavy matter as if it were light, so the victory was in their favor. Ren Yufeng was in the late stage of the foundation building realm. Aside from him, Lu and Xiang, Mo Tiange, and the remaining 6 were in the early stage of the foundation building realm. If 3 middle-stage foundation building cultivators joined hands, they could still win against a late-stage foundation building cultivator, but 6 early-stage foundation building cultivators couldn't defeat a single late-stage foundation building cultivator. Judging from this, Ren Yufeng had planned everything from the beginning. Among the 3 middle-stage foundation building cultivators, he let Lu Rongxing and Xiang Jiang preside over the formation and crippled 2 of them. He also schemed against Imo Tiange when they opened the restrictions on the Divine Dragon Monument, so none of the 3 middle stage foundation building cultivators could oppose him. The remaining 6 early stage foundation building cultivators couldn't defeat him, so once they entered the underground palace under the Divine Dragon Monument, Ren Yufeng would have the final say. Imo Tiange sneered in her heart. She didn't sympathize with this group of Jingfa sect cultivators because when Ren Yufeng schemed against her, they all looked on with folded arms. However, now that they had a falling out with Ren Yufeng, she could join hands with them. Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. She secretly sent Jiang Shanghang a voice transmission. Ask them what's the situation now and how's Ren Yufeng. Jiang Shanghang nodded imperceptibly, then continued to ask, how's Senior Marshal Brother Ren now? Did he really obtain the Divine Dragon's breath? Can we escape? I don't know. The one who answered was still Qiu Jiming. We followed him all the way into this underground palace and into the Divine Dragon Palace. When we arrived at the Dragon Bone altar in the back, we saw a dragon skeleton. At this time, Ren Yufeng suddenly burst into laughter. He said he finally saw the dragon skeleton and that he wanted to obtain the Divine Dragon's breath to become the Divine Dragon's son. Then he used some kind of secret technique and the Divine Dragon's breath on the dragon skeleton really rushed towards him. Senior Marshal Brother Liu was shocked and asked him what was going on. Ren Yufeng proudly said that last time he entered this underground palace alone, he obtained a stone tablet outside the Divine Dragon Palace and discovered the mural that was carved with the inheritance of the Divine Dragon's breath, so he was tempted. In these past few months, he completely comprehended the mural, so he asked us to help him enter this Divine Dragon Palace again so he could carry out the Divine Dragon's secret technique. Imo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang glanced at each other. In fact, they'd already guessed some things, but they still didn't expect Ren Yufeng to be this ruthless. Bringing them in was basically to silence all of them. However, in other words, the Divine Dragon's breath was really the Divine Dragon's breath. There were even dragon bones here. Could it be that dragons really existed? The breath left behind by the legendary king of spiritual beasts, the race closest to the gods, was already so powerful. How powerful would a real dragon be? What was going on with this sacrificial temple? Could it be that it was the burial place of ancient dragons? Qiu Jiming continued. Senior Marshal Brother Liu asked him if he was just using us. Ren Yufeng was furious and said he'd already inherited the Divine Dragon's breath, so he was no longer a human and was about to become a divine beast, but Senior Marshal Brother Liu actually dared to talk to him like that. Then, he killed Senior Marshal Brother Liu. At this point, anger appeared in Qiu Jiming's eyes. We were all shocked when he killed Senior Marshal Brother Liu. Junior Marshal Sister Ai asked him one more thing, and Senior Marshal Brother Xiang also asked him why he hurt his fellow disciples, so he killed both Junior Marshal Sister Ai and Senior Marshal Brother Xiang. Upon hearing this, Imo Tiange and Jiang Shanghang exchanged glances. It seemed this Ren Yufeng was completely deranged. He actually did this to his own sect. Although the cultivation world was a realistic place, they were, after all, part of the righteous path, a Dao sect, so there were still sect rules that forbade people from attacking each other. This Ren Yufeng actually ignored the sect rules. Could it be that after obtaining the Divine Dragon's breath, he no longer needed to stay in Jingfa sect? Or perhaps he was certain they couldn't escape. When she thought of the latter possibility, Imo Tiange couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. If it was the original Ren Yufeng, she still had a certain degree of confidence. With so many treasures, it wouldn't be a problem for her to fight against a late-stage foundation building cultivator. But how strong would Ren Yufeng, who was said to have obtained the Divine Dragon's breath, be? She had no idea. Jiang Shanghang asked the question she wanted to know: is Senior Marshal Brother Ren very strong now? Qiu Jiming was silent. The one who answered was Tang Fang. Senior Marshal Brother Ren is very scary now. After he killed Senior Marshal Brother Lu, Senior Marshal Brother Xiang, and Senior Marshal Sister Ai, we realized something was wrong. He was indeed stronger than before, so we hastily fled. Senior Marshal Brother Ren seemed to want to chase us, but he stopped before he could absorb the divine dragon's breath. Therefore, we also don't know how strong he is now. However, the divine dragon's breath is so powerful, it definitely can't be weak. What Tang Fang said made Mo Tiange feel very uneasy. Ren Yufeng really had a way to absorb the divine dragon's breath, but they all knew how powerful the divine dragon's breath was. If he really withstood the backlash of this powerful force, how strong would he become? Even if it was impossible for him to advance to the nascent soul realm in one go, it was very possible for him, who was originally in the late stage of the foundation building realm, to enter the core formation realm in one go after he obtained the divine dragon's breath. Mo Tiange believed she could contend with a 5th-ranked demonic beast, and she could even escape if she had the virtual sky world, but she absolutely couldn't resist a core formation cultivator. This was because humans had intelligence that demonic beasts did not have. Under a relatively equal level of intelligence, strength was enough to determine the outcome. No matter how many treasures she had, it was useless. In the face of strength that was strong enough, tricks were also useless. Her thoughts turned at lightning speed, and she already had the idea of escaping. The simplest method was to enter the virtual sky world, but if she did that, how could she avoid the eyes and ears of the people in front of her? Besides, she didn't care about the others, but she at least wanted to protect Jiang Shanghang. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.